Innovation, integration, industry-based learning, inspiration. This is the division of Panabo City, the forefront of eradicating illiteracy.
First quarter and 70% for the second quarter. DepEd-Davao region has considered some indicators such as managing school operations, teaching and learning, well-being and protection, and homeschool coordination. For managing school operations, we adhered to AWA at 50% personal reporting on-site, implemented the BELCP, and strengthened the school-based management, planned, organized, and managed the human, physical, and financial resources, prepared school calendar, class program, and loading of teachers, capitalized in organizing and managing technology resources in teaching and learning, provided gadgets to schools from LGU, observed safety. For teaching and learning, we conducted safe and remote enrollment for school year 2021-2022, prepared supplementary materials, assessment tests, performance assessments, utilized weekly home learning plan based on the chosen modality, monitored Oplan Balik Eskwela, provided USBs and radios to some learners for RBI and TVBI, allowed all reusable SLMs for disinfecting, dusting, and fixing. For well-being and protection, we provided COVID-19 health kits, supplies to all teaching personnel and non-teaching personnel, organized school COVID task force in compliance with the health and safety protocols, conducted telemedicine or online consultation with nurses, dentists, medical officer, provided psychological support, motivational activities for teachers and learners, conducted enhancement program on mental health and wellness mechanism, supported health and safety strategies. For homeschool coordination, we conducted orientation on parents for the opening of classes, digitization program in different modalities, and mental health and psychological first aid, provided toolkits to parents on FAQs, established communication system through phone calls, SMS, Facebook, and Google Forms, planned and prepared the implementation of school-based feeding program, established health emergency response team. Secretary Leonor Magtolis-Briones has introduced the quality education reform of K-12 anchored on the 4 quadrants of the DepEd Kite, which are K-12 curriculum review and update, improving the learning environment, teachers upskilling and reskilling, and engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration. In line with this, DepEd-Davao region has the following best practices and innovations: curriculum review and updates, professional development programs, reinforcing existing modalities, interagency and stakeholders convergence, advocacy on the use of reusable SLMs, innovation and research, National Schools Maintenance Week, region-wide network of information and action centers, strengthening parental engagement, digitization of SLMs, online document tracking system, crafting of locally developed learning resources. And as we continue to serve, we also make sure that our teachers and personnel are safe. 71% of them were vaccinated with first dose, while 47% were already fully vaccinated. With all this, DepEd-Davao region is prepared to make school year 2021-2022 more meaningful to our learners, teachers, and all personnel.
Ang maayos na implementasyon ng BELCP diri sa DepEd 11 ay bunga ng pagkakaisa ng bawat sektor. Tuloy-tuloy ang edukasyon dahil sa mga bayaning guro, mga learners na pursigidong mag-aral, mga magulang na tunay na nagpapatibay sa pundasyon ng pangarap, at ang iba pang education advocates na katuwang natin para sa katuparan ng ating layunin. Alamin naman natin ang kwento kung paano na ipagpatuloy ang edukasyon sa gitna ng COVID-19 pandemic sa video na ito.
Innovation, integration, industry-based learning, and inspiration. Division of Panabo City, the forefront of eradicating illiteracy. Ito ang mantra ng sangay ng Panabo City sa pagsulong ng dekalidad na edukasyon. Taglay nito ang mga panalong serbisyo at dedikasyon upang patuloy ang pagkatuto ng ating mga mag-aaral sa kabila ng hamong dulot ng pandemya. Iba't ibang programa ang inilunsad upang paigtingin ang paghatid ng kaalaman para sa ating mga mahal na mag-aaral.
For the happy and positive experiences that we have, it's very pleasant because I was able to see my students through our advocacy Adopt a Reader program. We were able to conduct home visitation. We were able to cure the reading gaps even though this time of pandemic. So that is the highlight of happy experience in this new normal setup of education.
Very, very different from what it was before the pandemic, no? Pero sa nakikita ko, dahil sa blended learning, mas nabigyan ng pagkakataon ang parent at ang student. Like for me and my daughter to have more time together, na enhance yung pagiging malikhain through sa mga sining na ginagawa niya. It's because probably dahil I took the time to really made some adjustments for her na yung bonding time namin will include me studying with her for her to feel na yung pandemic, it's just in the outside of the house, but inside of the house, learning should continue and will continue, even if mommy is the teacher for that time.
Isa sa naging solusyon upang maisulong ang edukalidad sa kabila ng pandemya dulot ng COVID-19 ay ang pagbuo ng Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. Nakapaloob dito ang mga plano, estratehiya, at alituntunin sa pagbukas muli ng taong panuruan.
Unang-una na po dyan, kasi nandun po kami sa bahay, nakatira. Tapos doon kami gumagawa ng mga modules namin. Siyempre, nakakasama namin yung mga pamilya namin. Mas dumadami yung oras na nailalaan ko sa kanila. May mga gagandang alaala na nagagawa. At saka po yung mga bagong na-experience ko bilang estudyante. Siyempre, yung online kamustahan namin kasama yung mga kapwa ko estudyante, kasama yung guru namin. Kasi kahit through video call lang, through Zoom, nakikita ko pa rin yung mga mukha nila. At saka po yung ideya na patuloy pa rin po ako nakakapag-aral. Tsaka ang gandang-gandang experience na rin po kasi sa kabila ng sitwasyon na meron tayo, patuloy pa rin po akong natututo at meron akong natutunan at nalalaman ng mga bagong bagay bawat araw.
Kaisa ang ating mga stakeholders sa pagpapatupad at pagsasagawa ng mga adhikaing ito. Sadyang hindi matatawaran ang mga sakripisyo at dedikasyon ng bawat isa. May sulong lamang ang dekalidad na edukasyon sa gitna ng pandemya.
Sumasaludo kami sa ating mga guro At ipinapaabot namin ng pasasalamat sa ating mga learners na nagbibigay ng inspirasyon sa DepEd upang mas pagtibayin pa ang mga programang pang-edukasyon. Maraming salamat din sa mga magulang at education advocates dahil sa inyong suporta, tuloy ang paglupad sa pangarap ng bawat bata. Sa pagkakataong ito, pakinggan naman natin ang mensahe ng ating Regional Director diri sa DepEd 11 na si Dr. Alan G. Farnazo.
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Madayaw Davao. Isang malaking karangalan at kakatangi-tanging pagkakataon para sa Rehiyon 11, Davao Region, na mapili na para magiging tagapangasiwa ng ating EduAKSYON ngayon. Mahaba-haba na rin ang ating inilakbay para makamta natin at matulak natin ng masigasig ang BELCP sa lahat ng bahagi ng bansa na may kanya-kanyang katangi-tanging mga konteksto. Ngunit sa lahat ng mga hamon na hinarap ng sektor ng edukasyon, ay meron tayong napakalakas, matibay, at malaki ang puso na gumagabay sa ating paglalakbay. Ang ina ng kagawaran ng edukasyon, kagalang-galang na kalihim, Leonor Magtolis-Briones, mula sa bansang Pilipinas at mula sa Davao Region, ipinaaabot namin sa inyo ang aming pasasalamat at maalab na pagbati sa iyong pagdiriwang ng iyong kaarawan. Alam po ng lahat na kahit ang iyong kritiko o ang iyong mga tagahanga ay pariho palagi ang nasasambit. Ang sabi nila, sa panahon na ang kagawaran ay nahaharap sa matinding hamon, wala na sigurong iba pang may pinakamagaling na namumuno, kundi ang ating pinakamamahal na kalihim, Leonor Magtolis-Briones. And if I may quote exactly the word they said, we cannot imagine the Department of Education to be facing this huge challenge without Secretary Leonor Magtolis-Briones in its leadership position. Sa aming pinakamamahal na kalihim, maligayang bati sa iyong kaarawan. Binabati din natin ang lahat ng mga miyembro ng EXICOM at of course, ang bansang Pilipinas, ang ating mga namumuno, guro, mag-aaral, mga magulang at lahat ng mga stakeholders natin. Alam natin ng edukasyon ay kailangang itulak ano paman ang hamon na hinaharap. Sabi nga nila, napakataas ng retensyon ng kaalaman kung ang pamamaraan ng pagkatuto ay nasusubok sa matinding hamon. A learning that is experienced in the most challenging way is a learning that we will never forget. In fact, we all knew that difficult circumstances are best teachable moments. Isang karangalan para sa Rehiyon 11 ang mapili at magiging tagapangasiwa ng EduAKSYON. Kasama ng ating 11 Schools Division Offices sa pamumuno ng ating Schools Division Superintendent, Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, at ng ating 48,522 teachers. Kasama ng ating 1,422,000 learners at ng ating pinakamagandang Assistant Regional Director, Maria Ines Asuncion. Kasama rin ng ating tagapangasiwa sa ating ginagawang hosting ngayon ng Schools Division Superintendent ng Panabo City Division, Dr. Rinaldo Solitario, at ng kanyang Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Phoebe Gay Rifamonte. Kasama ng napakalakas na hanay ng ating mga stakeholders, binabati namin kayo, Madayaw Davao, Welcome sa ating palatuntunan at excited na tayong makinig para sa mga pangunahing updates ng ating kagawaran. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat para sa napakagandang mensahe, Director Alan G. Farnazo. Ang implementasyon ng mga programang pang-edukasyon ay bunga ng masusing pagpaplalo ng mga kinatawan ng kagawaran mula sa central office hanggang sa field offices. Maliban sa mga regional updates na ating isa sa publiko ngayong araw, aalamin din natin ang ilang updates mula sa central office.
Maliban kay Secretary Liling, kasama rin natin ngayong araw sina DepEd Undersecretary for Finance, Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla, DepEd Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction, Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio, Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma, Director Roger Masapo, and Director Alan G. Farnazo. Sa ilang sandali ay magsisimula na rin ang ating talakayan kasama ang ating mga media partners at si Secretary Liling. Ngunit bago yan, panoorin muna natin ang kwentong naghahatid ng inspirasyon at pag-asa para mas tumibay pa ang pagsagwan tungo sa maliwanag na kinabukasan.
Kahit sinong magulang ay gagawin ang lahat para sa mga anak. Dito sa Asunción, Davao del Norte, Rehiyon 11, tunghayan natin ang sakripisyo ni Rosalinda Pesiao sa pagtawid ng espesyal na edukasyon ng kanyang 4 na anak na puro mayroong Down syndrome.
Kauna-una ako ma'am sa Ginoo nga nakapangutan ako nga unsay akong sala nga nung hatagon ko niya problema sa maani o man ta ko mangayaw sa akong mga anak nga anak sila. Pero bisan pa ni anak ma'am, gidawat na ko sila sa dakong kasayon. Kaya bisag unsaon na ako silang anak. Sangko sa langit akong paghigugma sa akong mga anak ma'am. Dako kayang hagit sa akong kinabuhi nga mapadako na ko sila, mapa-eskwela. Bisag unsa sa kalisod daning kamot mi sa akong bana kay para ma-eskwela sila, makakatunog kaalam, para magrespeto sila sa ilang isikataw, labi na sa Ginoo. Nga unta, respetuhon nila ang isikataw nila, mahalag ingon anak sila, para dili sila mahimong sa lawayon sa katilingban. Ako silang kuan hantod nga nag-eskwela sila. Ben, mata na mo kay mami. Daligo sayo eskwela. Mata kog sayo, ako silang kaligo. Ginaandaman. Ako silang atiman. Ginahukaran ako sila para makakaon. Pagkahuman, mag-ilis sila, mga tunong-eskwelahan. Sa una, sa face-to-face pa ang klase, pertigyong lisura. Kaya magdako sa akong mga anak nga 4 ka buok. Tungod sa mga agianan, pertika lisod. Maningkamot ko, o padog eskwelahan. Sa pag-abot na mo sa sapa, akong ginabuhat, akong ginapasakay akong mga anak.
Ang bangkang ito na gamit nila pantawid sa ilog ay simbolo rin ng edukasyon na pantawid nila sa mas magandang bukas.
Sige ko gabira, dili kayo ko ka focus o bira sa PC, kaya sige ko panlingi sa akong luyo, kaya akong mga anak, basig mga hagbong na. Sige kong bira, sige panglingi sa ilaha. Pag-abot na ako sa Dublin, ko Lord, salamat yung taon nga nakatabok nami. Kaning ako mga 4 ka anak, sir. Bisan tuod, ingunaan nilang ni sila. Malipay gihapon ko kay dili na ko sila lisod nga masugo. Ako silang ginatudloan, ang kani akong 2 ka babae, manglaba sa ilang sarili nga mga sanina, kaning laki manglaba po. Malipay yung taon ang amahan, kaya pag uli, magdasya kahoy, ginagabas-gabas ni Fernando, manghakot siya tubig sa CR. Bisan to, di nga na ilang kabuot. Ako, kaya yung tabang sa kong mga anak, isa, nga na ilahang na sila mga Down syndrome. Masugog yapon ako sila, panugoy kanding, asang amahan, uban-uban in taon, magsagbas, pag-uli, ini ko magpaniuto, relax, ngita sila sa ilahang module, mag-answer ta sa ako ang module, para sa ako, ang module, mura gilis dan gyud pug ko in taon kay upat na sila kabuok. Dili na ako makaya ang pagtudlo sa akong mga anak tungod kay daghan sila. Naapoy lisod, naapoy pasayon. Ug nagpasalamat ko sa Sagayen Elementary School ang mga teachers. Salamat kay inyo, ma'am. Tagyong ginaari ang akong mga anak ug tagsa-tagsa gyud nila og tudlo. Gilingkuran gyud nila pag-ayo, gitutukan nila pag-ayo ang akong mga anak na makabalo sila sa ilahang module.
Thank you, teacher! Thank you! Thank you, teacher!
Nangandoy ko nga makabalo gyud sila bisan tuod nga anak sila, makabalo sila musulat, pagbasa.
Sa gitna man ng pandemya, patuloy ang edukasyon ng mga espesyal na mag-aaral tulad ng sa Pamilya Pesyaw sa tulong ng DepEd at ng mga gurong tunay na may malasakit sa kanila. Patuloy ang pagsagwan tungo sa maunlad na kinabukasan.
Maraming salamat para sa napaka-inspiring na video presentation. At Ma'am Des, saksi tayo na ginagawa talaga ng kagawaran at ng bawat isa ang lahat upang makapagbigay ng maayos at mataas na kalidad ng edukasyon para sa ating mga mag-aaral.
Tama ka dyan, Sir Ed. Mula sa reproduction, distribution, at retrieval ng mga modules, maging sa online classes at radio-based instructions. At dito sa SDO Panabo City, ang TV Aralan.
Yes, Ma'am Des. Lahat ng posibleng pwedeng ibigay ay binibigay talaga natin upang mapabuti at mapadali ang pag-aaral ng ating mga learners. Nagpapasalamat din tayo sa lahat ng ating mga stakeholders para sa kooperasyon at tulong nila. Sa ating mga magulang, LGUs, private sector, and of course, sa ating mga kaguruan.
At sila ngayon, Sir Ed, ay nanonood sa ating programa. We have 850 viewers and still counting. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, nice. Very good. Thank you. Maraming salamat at binabati namin kayong lahat.
Sir Ed, basahin natin ang ilan sa kanilang mga comments from Ma'am Arlene Lim of Davao de Oro Division. DDO Division supports all the way. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ma'am Arlene. And from Mer Bautista, watching from Malita Central Elementary School, Division of Davao Occidental. Thank you so much po.
We also have Ma'am Ella Ligad, of course, from Quezon National High School of Panabo. Good morning, Ma'am Ella, and to all the teachers of Quezon National High School.
Thank you. Thank you sa panonood. And from Marilyn Lim, good morning, everyone watching from Balasinon Elementary School, Sulup District, Davao del Sur. Thank you sa panonood, Ma'am Marilyn. And good morning sa inyong lahat dyan.
Maraming salamat po, and you may share this live stream po sa ating mga kaibigan, mga friends, at maging sa atin pong mga parents upang malaman din nila ang mga updates dito po sa ating programa, Sir Ed, na EduAKSYON.
Yes, inimbitahan namin ang lahat na manood kasi minutes from now, we will be talking with our very own Secretary Liling.
Opo. And Sir Ed, balikan natin yung nakita natin, napanood natin na video kanina. Lubos ang aking paghanga, Sir Ed,
Yes.
sa ating mga magulang, lalong-lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng pandemic.
Yes, we can really attest to that, no? It's already hard to take care of one kid, all the more na apat na lahat may special needs. So, kudos and saludo kami sa lahat ng mga magulang na nagsisikap para sa kanilang mga mag-aaral.
At hindi lamang mga magulang, Sir Ed, andyan rin ang mga lolo, auntie, mga ate at kuya na all the way ang support para sa ating mga learners.
Of course, hindi natin sila malilimutan. Hindi lang yung mga magulang ang nag-aalaga sa kanila. Meron ng iba na nasa kanilang mga lolo at lola at iba.
Yes. And Sir Ed, baka pwede natin ma-share ang ating experience naman po bilang isang RBI teacher sa AOF National High School.
Yes, actually it's a very new to us. Alam naman nating lahat na ngayon lang ito nangyari, 'di ba? So it's really an adjustment for everyone, and I think in time sa pagpapractice namin, magagawa namin ng mas mabuti pa at makapagbibigay pa kami ng mas mabuti pang aralin sa RBI.
Yes, at hindi lamang AOF po ang merong RBI, yung mga maraming schools po dito sa SDO Panabo City, meron na ring radio-based instructions, maging ang aming TV aralan.
Yes, hindi lang ito ay shared na ginagawa ng iba't ibang paaralan dito sa Division of Panabo City.
Yes, dahil ang Division of Panabo City, the forefront of eradicating illiteracy through the 4 I's, innovation, integration, industry-based learning, and inspiration. Kaya maraming salamat po sa aming napakagaling na SDS, Dr. Reynante A. Solitario at ASDS, Ma'am Febigay L. Refomonte. Maging sa amin po mga chiefs, SGOD Chief, Dr. Eileen B. Anunuevo, CID Chief, Dr. John Wario E. Yamota.
Yes, maraming salamat po sa initiative na ginagawa nila, di ba?
Tama ka dyan, Sir Ed. At nagpapasalamat rin po tayo sa aming host school para sa araw na ito, ang Panabo City National High School sa pamumuno po ng kanilang Principal 4, Ma'am Mimia B. Infiesto. Maraming salamat po, Ma'am, sa inyong pag-accommodate sa amin dito po sa inyong napakagandang studio sa Panabo City National High School.
Yes, again, thank you so much. At meron tayong another comment, partner. Anisita Desierto, nakakaantig ng puso at laban lang tayo. Yes, of course, laban lang mga guro.
Yes, si Ma'am Anisita po ay isang principal po natin dito sa SDO Panabo City. At meron din po tayong comment from Marteza Lin. Congrats, DepEd Davao Region. Yes, diri sa DepEd 11.
Yes, at may comment din tayo. Thank you sa walang sawang suporta ng lahat ng ating kaguruan sa buong bansa. Wow, napakasarap pakinggan at napakasarap sa feeling na makikita ng ganun, Ma'am Des.
Thank you, Sir Ed. At sa lahat ng ating mga kaguruan, maraming salamat. You are very strong and very dedicated po with your noble profession, especially in these trying times dito po sa ating bansa.
Yes, at gusto ko lang sabihin ang laban na ito ay hindi lang laban ng mga kaguruan, kundi laban nating lahat.
Tama ka dyan, Sir Ed. At let's grab also this opportunity, Sir Ed, para atin ring pasalamatan ang ating digital media production ng Sangay ng Panabo City. Ayan po, headed by our director po, PSDS Neil Michael D. Asis, with our technical director, Sir Tyron O. Duhali, and of course, nandito rin ang ating mga videographers. Andyan po sila na mga behind the camera, sila Sir Rodmar, Sir George, si Ma'am Rosevale, Sir Ken, Ma'am Maria Trinity. Andyan din po sila Sir Christian, Sir Rinsong. Maraming salamat po. At parang wala talaga ito silang kapaguran, Sir Ed, sa kanila.
Actually, kahapon nagkaroon ng preparation and we got home mga late na, di ba? So, nagpapasalamat talaga kami sa aming team na handa at always na sumusuporta para sa ating programa ngayong araw.
Yes po. At sa lahat ng mga viewers namin, please share this live stream po. Dahil mga ilang sandali lamang ay makakasama na natin ang ating minamahal na secretary para talakayin ang mga updates at mahahalagang impormasyon dito sa sektor ng edukasyon.
Yes, at gusto ko rin batiin ang aking mga kasamang kaguruan sa A.O. Florendo National High School. Sa tribo ng A.O. Florendo, magandang umaga sa inyo dyan.
And also we have another comment, si Ma'am Hilda po. Thank you so much, Ma'am Hilda. Greetings from for the DepEd Davao region. Ayan. Nakikita ni DepEd ang lahat ng pagsusumikap ng ating mga magulang sa panahong ito. Lalong-lalo na sa pagtataguyod ng edukasyon.
Yes.
Thank you so much po.
And again, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. At bilang hudyat ng pagsisimula ng talakayan sa pagitan ng ating mga media partners at ni Secretary Liling, kasama ang ating mga DepEd officials, ating pakinggan ang mensahe ni Secretary Leonor Magtolis-Briones. Panoorin natin ang video na ito. At bago muna ang mensahe ni Secretary Liling, magkakaroon tayo ng isang intermission number from the Central Office.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable fall, to bear with unbearable sorrow, and to run where the brave are not called.
To right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for that heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, then my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I lay to my rest.
If the world will be better for this, that one man scored and covered with scars,
Still strong with his last ounce of courage,
to reach the unreachable star,
to reach
the unreachable star.
Maraming salamat sa isang napakagandang intermission number from Davao de Oro with Ma'am Crystal Rain Gonzalez, our 2019 champion of Teachers Got Talent from the Division of Davao de Oro.
Yes, and of course, Mr. Jason Puqueta, songwriter and conductor of Davao de Oro Chorale. So napaka-talented ng ating mga teachers, Ma'am Des.
Tama ka dyan, Sir Ed. At maging sa pandemic, naglabasan, Sir Ed, ang kanilang mga natatagong talento, hindi lamang sa pagtuturo. Naging artista din ang ating mga kaguruan.
Yes, dahil sa TV Aralan, di ba?
Tama. At naging DJ naman dahil sa ating radio-based instructions.
Yes. So hindi lang pang-paaralan ng mga guro. Pwede rin silang pang-contest, pwedeng pang-singing, pang-dancing, at iba pang mga skills or talents.
Yes, at naglabasan din kanilang mga talento at kanilang mga skills, Sir Ed, sa video editing naman, sa videography. Hindi natin alam na meron pala tayong mga cameraman na instant talaga dito sa ating mga modular learning and mga online learning.
Yes, of course. Dito talaga lumalabas yung mga hidden talents na kapag kailangan na. Dahil nung panahong normal pa lang, hindi pa masyadong nagagamit yung skills and talents ng ating mga videographers, mga editors, kasi nga hindi pa siya masyadong gamit. Pero ngayong mostly activities natin is online, nagagamit at nagagamit na nila ang kanilang mga skills at kanilang mga talents.
Yes, nagiging mga naglabasan din ang kanilang mga talents into writing and online instructions, sir, with our DepEd Commons. Kaya sa ating mga magulang at mga learners, please utilize our DepEd Commons po. At marami din po on social media pages ang ating mga infomercial na nakapupulutan natin ng mga impormasyon at mga mahahalagang balita. At sa ngayon, Sir Ed, panoorin natin ang inihandang video na ito.
Hi, teachers and learners! Good day. I am Mr. Alvin C., one of the EdTech specialists serving you with happiness. In response to the United Nations Declaration of Paris in 2012 about the open educational resources, the Philippines' basic education is ready to fulfill its promise to make learning accessible and give equal opportunity to every Filipino. This is the birth of the DepEd Commons to bridge the gaps of having adequate available resources with the aid of ICT equipment and infrastructure. The DepEd Commons was a flagship project headed by the Undersecretary for Administration, Alain Del B. Pascual, and Director 4 of the Information and Communication Technology Service, Abram Y.C. Abanil. DepEd Commons serves as an online education delivery platform of the department where learning resources, online review materials, and open educational resources, or OERs, made by educators are available, easily accessed, and where resources can be modified without having to reprint when such materials necessitate revisions or improvement. In cooperation with the Department of Information and Communication Technology, or DICT, National Telecommunication Commissions, or NTC, SMART, PLDT, and Globe, we can use the DepEd Commons for free, even without the data load or credits. It's more convenient to learn and study 24/7 in the comfort of your own home. The interface of the system is simple and yet very direct to immediately show the needed materials, which can be downloaded or viewed via a browser. Continuous enhancement and development were catered to showcase the abrupt needs of the end users. With the demands of technology in education, the DepEd Commons became top 4 as the most trending search in Google in year 2020. Aside from that, DepEd Commons ranked number 1 in the most searched topic under the education category in our country in the same year. The DepEd Commons has a total number of 15,190,182 unique users since it was first launched in March 2020. Today, you will see thousands of learning resources in the system to support the blended learning modalities of the department. In addition, the bright future of DepEd Commons will continuously shine as we embark and empower the public school teachers in creating world-class teaching and learning resources, such as electronic books or ebooks, digital magazine and worksheets, interactive online games, self-developed Android applications, instructional and tutorial video contents, and other emerging technology tools. As a support system in the online modalities, the use of learning management system is taking into shape. The DepEd LMS is an e-learning platform initiated by the ICTS to help and support the teaching and learning process in the controlled online environment. It was created to work concertedly with the DepEd Commons. Amongst the advantages of using the DepEd LMS are as follows. First, it is cost-effective. The courseware allows participants to access it in their own free time and reduces travel expenses, accommodation costs, and professional fees. Learning while watching the instructional aided materials enhances the soft skills of participants by doing the hands-on activity as requirement. In addition, a digital certificate with QR security code is automatically rewarded to a participant once a certain course is accomplished and completed. Second, consistency of training. The delivery and mastery of competencies is consistent since it is centralized, well-organized, and easy to navigate. It delivers a learning curve to all students by supplying a single source for content, course materials, and instruction with variation of activities that will enhance the skills of end users. Third, it easily tracks learners' progress and performance. It has the capability to allow DepEd to easily generate and consolidate training reports in all overall perspective. By utilizing the e-learning courses or online trainings, trainers can easily track goals progress, knowledge gains, and determine who have completed the course or who needs assistance and help. The Department of Education internally developed an in-house learning management system, namely the Professional Development LMS or PDLMS, used for professional growth and capacity building for teacher and non-teaching personnel, which is not limited to public school teachers. It is also available to private school teachers and even college or university professors. On the other hand, the DepEd Regional LMS or DLMS is intended exclusively for public school teachers and students within their regions and divisions to support the blended learning modalities in delivering quality instruction. To learn more and have a feel of ease in using this innovative system, kindly visit commons.deped.gov.ph for DepEd Commons, trainings.deped.gov.ph for DepEd PD LMS, and lms.deped.gov.ph for DepEd Regional LMS. We will continue to innovate and transform the Philippine basic education in its target glory. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, para sa guro. Sulong edukalidad.
The Department of Education, in collaboration with the Department of Information and Communications Technology and the National Transmission Corporation, will establish the Public Education Network, also known as PEN, to address the problems of connecting schools to the internet. The PEN is in line with the President's directive to both agencies announced during his State of the Nation address last 27th of July 2020 to to connect all public schools and DepEd offices nationwide. This also includes the prioritization of last-mile schools by providing them access to electricity and internet. The PEN started out with the connectivity program of DepEd, which was started in 2018. It was continuously developed until the final framework was finalized with the collaboration from DICT and Transco. The PEN includes the following major components. First, a redundant core network that will house all the education systems. Second, a wide area network known as WAN that will connect schools to the core network and allow them to access education systems without the need for internet bandwidth. Third, a customer premise equipment or CPE in each school that will establish a virtual private network or VPN. Fourth, a virtual private network to secure network traffic. Fifth, a caching device in each school that will improve the responsiveness of systems. Sixth, a high-speed internet connection from all available technologies that will be distributed by the core network to schools based on the actual consumption requirements. And lastly, the school network. It is a set of networking equipment that will be needed to connect all classrooms to the internet. The PEN is implemented in 6 phases. With its target success, the PEN will result in the following advantages to the education system. First, it will allow teachers and learners to access the DepEd Commons and LR portal, which contain teacher guides, open educational resources, video and audio lectures, and electronic self-learning modules that are mapped against the curriculum. Second, it will allow teachers and learners to access the DepEd learning management system that will facilitate blended learning and allow teachers to create tests with PISA-like questions that will potentially improve the ranking of the country in the next PISA exam. The LMS will also facilitate distance learning, making the education system more resilient to disasters like the COVID-19 pandemic and typhoons, which normally results in the suspension of classes that rely only on face-to-face modalities. Third, it will allow schools to access the DepEd Enterprise Resource Planning Systems, or DERPS, that automates organizational processes such as asset management, HR transactions, payroll, procurement, and project monitoring. Fourth, it will support the implementation of TV and radio-based education by allowing learners to access a Netflix-like application that can be used to access video and audio lectures that will also be broadcasted through TV and radio stations. Fifth, it will allow the department to conduct a large-scale teacher trainings with minimal cost, as demonstrated by DepEd when it trained 337,486 public school teachers on distance learning modalities in just a span of 2 months during community quarantine. Sixth, it will substantially reduce the cost of internet connection by allowing teachers and learners to access educational systems that are housed in the core network through the wide area network without the need for internet bandwidth. Seventh, it will allow security management to be centralized and ensure that teachers and learners will be safe from cyber attacks and harmful websites. It will also allow schools that are used as precincts to send election results through a VPN that is secure and protected from external attackers. In addition, it will provide a centralized view of the entire network, allowing DepEd to automatically identify disconnections even without feedback from the schools, and thus make the appropriate response to reconnect the disconnected schools. The Public Education Network is a collaborative project between DepEd and DICT that will modernize the education system and make Filipino graduates more competitive in the international market. It is an investment that is needed to respond to the growing challenges of a world that has grown more unpredictable and uncertain. It will be the foundation for the next generation of Filipino leaders and highly equipped, innovative educators.
Maraming paraan para matuto sa kabila ng maraming pagbabago.
Oops! Oo, kami nga, ang inyong mga teachers sa telebisyon. Mas madalas nyo nang mapanunood at makakasama.
Mas mahabang oras at maraming araw. Mula 7 ng umaga hanggang 7 ng gabi yan, ha?
Tumutok sa ating mga lessons na naka-video episodes. Manood habang natututo sa inyong TV. Ito ay maipapalabas sa IBC 13, Signal TV, ABS-CBN TV Plus, at GMA Affordabox Channel 7.
Kung hindi makahabol sa live broadcast, aba naman, subscribe na sa official YouTube channel ng DepEd TV para makapanood ng video episodes sa inyong cellphone, tablets, laptops, o personal computers.
Learning is a continuous process, and the Department of Education will continue to innovate teaching to make learning accessible to every Filipino.
Kaya para sa mga pag-asa ng ating bayan, ipagpatuloy natin ang pagtataguyod ng pagkatuto ng bawat kabataang Pilipino.
Ang komunidad at mga magulang ang kaagapay. At ang DepEd TV ang gabay at tulay para sa edukasyong hindi tatamlay.
Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Kunin na ang self-learning modules, papel at panulat, ballpen man o lapis.
Dahil sama-sama na tayong matututo habang nag-e-enjoy. Sulong Edukalidad. At ito, ang DepEd TV.
There will be no face-to-face classes.
We will be using our own teachers as broadcasters in this TV program.
Huwag kayong mag-alala. Good morning, everyone. Are you ready?
Yeah!
Thing or the best adjustment na nangyari sa atin is yung mga non-techie people are really forced to use cell phones and laptops. Kasi nga, most of our activities are done online, di ba? So medyo busy na rin yung mga teachers natin sa kanilang mga cell phones kasi this is the only way na nakokontakt natin yung ating mga learners and of course yung ating mga magulang din.
Tama ka dyan, Sir Ed. At kahit pandemic po, ngayon, maraming mga programs pa rin ang patuloy na isinasagawa at ipinimplementa ng ating kagawaran. Meron tayong tinatawag na Regional School-Based Management Validation po na ang ilan sa ating mga paaralan dito sa Ed. Sa Panabo City ay Level 2 and Level 3 na po. Validated by our by SBM. Ayan po, the School-Based Management.
Yes, this only goes to show na kahit pandemic, kahit we are on the new normal status, ginagawa pa rin ng kagawaran ng lahat ng mga programa para makapagbigay ng serbisyo at at tumulong din sa mga bawat paaralan.
Yes, we also have, Sir Ed, ang tinatawag natin na SIGA or ang School in the Garden amidst pandemic.
Yes.
Ayan. ongoing rin po ang ating evaluation sa ating mga paaralan kung saan kung noon, Sir Ed, maganda na ang ating mga paaralan, mas lalong gumanda pa ito sa tulong ng ating mga kaguruan, mag-aaral, parents, at ng ating mga stakeholders.
Yes, sa panahon ngayon, Ma'am Des, sa new normal, maraming naging plantito at saka plantita, di ba?
Tama ka dyan,
Yes,
Sir
it's one way of coping up with stress, kumbaga. Ang pagtatanim, pagkakaroon ng garden, especially sa paaralan.
Kaya't nagpapasalamat kami dito sa DepEd sa lahat ng ating mga stakeholders na walang sawang sumusuporta sa lahat ng programa dito sa Department of Education. Thank you so much.
Yes. At Ma'am Des, meron pa bang ibang programa na ginawa ang DepEd or ang kagawaran?
Yes, Sir Ed. Ang ipinagmamalaki natin dito sa Region 11, ang diri sa DepEd 11. Kaya inaanyayahan namin ang aming mga viewers na tumutok mamaya po pagkatapos ng ating edukasyon, ang diri sa DepEd 11.
Yes. At eto na, ang pinakahihintay nating lahat, atin ang pakinggan ang mensahe ng ating Secretary Leonor Magtolis-Briones. Panoorin natin ang video na ito.
Leonor Magtolis-Briones, a passionate educator, an adventurous writer, a gender advocate, a faithful servant of God, a trusted public servant, and a loving mother. She had her education at Silliman University in 1958, obtaining a bachelor's degree in business administration, majoring in accounting, and obtained magna cum laude at the early age of 17. She obtained her master's degree in public administration from the University of the Philippines and postgraduate diploma in development administration from Leeds University in England. She was also conferred Doctor of Public Administration honoris causa by the Central Philippine University in 2014. Liling has also been an achiever, as she was awarded with distinction from Leeds University, England, and obtained certificates in Policy in Public Enterprise from Harvard Institute for International Development, Harvard University, and Innovations in Governance from the John F. Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University, Massachusetts. Later on, she ventured into public service as secretary to the Commission on Audit and served as the National Treasurer of the Philippines. She also accepted the UP presidency nomination in 2010 that was initiated by the National College of Public Administration and Governance students and was supported by more than 1,000 people coming from the faculty and alumni through signature campaigns. She also pursued her life's advocacies, including fighting for social justice. As an established leader, she headed the Freedom from Debt Coalition. Briones was also a gender advocate who raised the level of discourse to address the plight of women. As a passionate advocate for social justice, she addressed the United Nations General Assembly in September 2005. In front of an international delegation, she bravely uttered to them, "Fulfill your promises, as the poor cannot wait for too long." She also became a party list nominee to the Congress under the banner of Kaakbay Party in 2012, which advocated for social reforms. She also served as a prominent petitioner of several non-government organizations and individuals which questioned the constitutionality of the disbursement acceleration program of the previous administration. Secretary Liling has spent most of her life as an educator. Whenever or wherever she delivered a public lecture, she taught like a teacher in a classroom. She became a researcher and professor at the University of the Philippines for over 50 years and was later conferred as Professor Emeritus in 2013 for her outstanding achievement inside and outside the university. A natural lover of music, she is also a member of the Manila Concert Choir and is currently serving as its president. With her invaluable success and journey as a leader and educator, she embraced public service and accepted the challenge to become the Secretary of the Department of Education of the Duterte administration. One of her greatest contributions to DepEd is the installation of reforms in the education system through the launch of Sulong Edukalidad, the rallying call for national effort to innovate Philippine education. Recently, she launched 2 books that depicted her life as an accomplished public servant and author. The first one was her biography, Faith, Duty, and Country, written by her friend and confidant for nearly 55 years, Dr. Proserpina Chit Domingo Tapales, a former dean of NCPAG, on her journey from being a poor girl from the Hulngan, Negros Oriental, up to being a public servant and advocate of education for all. Her second book, Boiled Green Bananas, is a compilation of her columns published in the Business Mirror from 2006 to 2016. To quote her supporters, "There is no shadow of doubt on Briones' probity and integrity." And until today, throughout her 80 years of experience, she shows how a true servant leader should be: ethical, dignified, and responsible.
Good morning, everyone. Mayong buntag kaninyong tanan. Magandang umaga sa lahat na nanonood at nakikinig sa programa ng DepEd at saka sa ating press conference. Hindi siguro ako kailangang magsalita ng matagal kasi mas mahalaga para sa akin na makinig sa feedback at saka sasagot sa mga tanong, mga requests for clarification na lumalabas ngayon hinggil sa edukasyon. Alam na natin ang good news, by November 15, magbubukas na tayo ng ating face-to-face at saka i-implement na natin yung ating pilot implementation study. So far, 30 schools have been identified, but we have about more than 40 schools also who are requesting that they be included in the pilot implementation. Ang ating mga kondisyon dito, tayo ay maingat. Ang prinsipyo natin ay yung tinatawag na shared responsibility. Ang edukasyon ay responsibilidad hindi lamang ng Department of Education at sa mga teachers, learners, and parents, but it is the responsibility of the entire society dahil ang ating future, ang ating present, at saka ang ating past is shaped by the kind of education that we have been sharing and teaching our learners. So, hindi ako magsasalita ng matagal. Nandito kasama sa akin ngayon si Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma na siya ang nag-oversee in behalf of DepEd and also Undersecretary Rebs Escobedo, who is the Undersecretary for Operations. Kasama din natin si Roger na galing sa ating planning service, siyang nag-gather ng statistics hinggil sa pag-implement nitong programang ito. In the meantime, also busy tayo sa pag-review ng curriculum dahil alam naman natin lahat na we had to rework our curriculum in the light of the pandemic. Also, I would like to remind our beloved teachers that even before the pandemic, we already made a pivot. Umikot na tayo at saka umpisa na tayo sa ating programang Edukalidad. Dahil lumalaki na ang ating enrollment, nakuha na natin yung gusto nating levels of enrollment. Ang mahalaga ay yung quality education na dinidemand ng ating konstitusyon. Also, I'd like to remind also, share also with our constituents and our education watchers that we also agree completely and we are implementing the principle of complementarity between and among private schools as well as public schools. Mayroon lang akong gustong ipaliwanag dahil nagdagdag tayo ng pangatlong kategory ng schools. You have the private schools, you have the public schools. Kasama na dito yung mga eskwelahan natin sa abroad. But at the same time, we have a separate small category of the international schools. Mayroon tayong maliwanag na definition na international schools. Ang international schools ay yung mga paaralan na na-set up para sa mga anak ng ating diplomatic personnel. And these are well-established international schools with a global and worldwide reputation. So, ilan sa kanila nag-indicate na gusto nilang isama sila sa ating pilot implementation. And so far, isa sa kanila ang naka-submit ng complete na programa para sa pag-implement ng tinatawag nilang hybrid learning. Ngayon, ito ay re-review din ng ating Department of Health. Gusto ko din emphasize na ito ay ang involved dito ay hindi lamang ang Department of Education. Dahil itong pilot na ito ay nangyayari, it's happening, it's implemented at the height of a very threatening and serious pandemic. And so, ang opinion ng Department of Education, Department of Health ay very important to us. So, ang Department of Education, mayroon siyang requirements. One is the consent and the cooperation of the local government. Hindi naman kaysa basta pupunta na lang tayo sa mga local governments at mag-set up ng pilot schools na hindi tayo kumakatok at maghingi ng kanilang kooperasyon at permiso dahil very supportive sila sa atin. Pangalawa, ang kailangan din natin para makasali ang mga bata sa face-to-face ay yung written consent ng mga parents. Kasi kailangan ma-recognize natin na mayroong parents na gustong-gusto, mayroon ding parents na kailangan pang kumbinsihin na pag-iisipan pa nila. So we need the parents' consent. Thirdly, and this is a responsibility, major responsibility ng Department of Education, kailangan yung ating facilities ay makasatisfy sa health standards ng Department of Health. Halimbawa, ating size ng classrooms natin, kayang mag-accommodate ng face-to-face. Kailangan mayroon tayong supply ng tubig kasi mahalaga ang tubig sa pagpiprevent at sa kapaglaban sa COVID. Kailangan malapit-lapit naman tayo sa isang health facility in case may mga pangangailangan. At saka yung basic na mga medicines, kailangan din mayroon din tayo supply sa schools. So local governments, parents, DepEd, and also those who are servicing our schools, yung nagpo-provide ng uniform, ng transportation, pagkain, at iba't iba pang mga bagay-bagay sa mga learners natin, ay kailangan mag-cooperate sila sa requirements ng IATF at saka ng Department of Health. So kami sa Department of Education, nagre-recommend kami, pinipili natin yung mga eskwelahan, pero ito ay dumadaan muna sa risk assessment. Kasi pagsasabihin ng Department of Health na hindi pa pwede dahil yung classification ng isang local government halimbawa ay medyo mataas pa ang risgo sa health ng ating kabataan, hindi natin yan itutuloy. So 2 major agencies plus equally important ang DILG. Ang DILG ay nagko-coordinate nag-oversee sila sa ating mga local governments. Kung ayaw ng local government o gusto ng local government, ayan, re-respetuhin natin dahil sa kanilang territory tayo gagawa ng ating mga pilot studies. So lahat na pwede nating precautions na i-take to assure the safety of our children, our learners, and our staff are being undertaken. At saka narinig na ninyo yung sinabi ni Secretary Galvez na vax to the max. Of course, ina-encourage natin na lahat ng mga teachers at staff na may involved sa mga sa pilot na ito ay preferably vaccinated para naman hindi mas ma-lower ang risk. Maraming nagtatanong kung bakit binibigyan natin yung emphasis ng K-3, yung mga bata. Sabi nga ng iba, parang ini-expose natin yung mga kabataan, yung mga bata kasi ang ating vaccination ngayon is from 12 to 17 to risk. Ito ay sa K-3 na sabi bakit doon tayo nagpo-focus. Ay ito ay from the advice of at least 5 associations of pediatric experts, yung pinakamahusay ng mga health experts sa mga bata. Ang suggestion nila talaga, walang ni isa sa kanila nag-o-object. Agree sila lahat na kailangan ang tutok sa younger children. Ano ba ang rason nito? Una, kailangang i-form na natin ang mga mahalagang habits, mahalagang pagturo ng mga bata sa pakikitungo sa ibang bata at saka mga adults. Nag-grow yung kanilang brains, ay kailangan sila ang mas nangangailangan ng face-to-face. Sa lahat ng grade level, sila ang pinaka taas ang pangangailangan kasi fino-form natin ang kanilang social habits, mental skills, at nag-grow yung brains nila. They're also growing physically. Kaya yun ang reason kung bakit doon tayo nakatutok sa grade K to 3. But at the same time, tinitingnan din natin ang junior high school at saka ang senior high school. Also, ito yung issue na ito. Yung pangatlong kategory natin, I have to clarify on the matter of international schools. Sinabi ko na kanina na gusto nating bigyan ng atensyon ang international schools. Pero ang definition natin ng international school so far, ang definition natin ay ito yung mga schools na itinayo para sa mga anak ng diplomats natin, sa mga big natin, those who contribute to the economy and so on and so forth. Marami tayong mga schools na mayroon tayong foreign students. May schools din tayo na mayroong foreign faculty but they are Filipino sa kanilang pag-register. So there is a very clear definition. Later I will ask my staff to project it on screen para magiging maliwanag yung definition of what is an international school. So far, one international school has already submitted to us their program for hybrid, and we are forwarding it to the Department of Education for risk assessment. Kasi i-consider nila kung saan nakalocate ang school na ito at saka ano naman ang classification ng international school na ito. So hanggang dito lamang, mas gusto ko na makinig sa feedback at sasagot sa mga other points for clarification. Muli, kasama ko si Yusek Revsi, si Asik Malcolm, at saka si Director Roger, at si Yusek Dads din kasi may tanong tungkol sa curriculum. Si Yusik Ann may tanong tungkol sa pangpinansya at sila ay tutulong sa pagsagot ng inyong mga katanungan. So all are welcome to raise questions and we will endeavor to answer as best as we can. Thank you.
At atin pong napakinggan ang mensahe ng ating butihing ina ng edukasyon, Secretary Liling. Maraming salamat po, Secretary, at saludo po kami sa inyong pamamahala upang maihatid ang dekalidad na edukasyon. Sa puntong ito ay makakasama naman natin ang ating Regional Information Officer, Dr. Jemima Valderrama Galang, bilang moderator ng ating press conference. Magandang araw, Ma'am Jemima.
Maraming salamat, Teacher Desiree at Teacher Edmar. Magandang araw sa ating media partners at sa mga nanonood pa rin sa ating Facebook Live. Upang mas malinawan, sa pagkakataong ito ay makakapanayam ng ating media partners ang mga plano at programang pang-edukasyon. Makikipagtalakayan si Secretary Leonor Magtolis-Briones kasama sina Undersecretary Annalyn Sevilla, Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio, Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma, Director Roger Masapol, at kasama natin si DepEd Region 11 Regional Director Alan G. Farnazo. May kasama rin tayong learner, parent, and teacher. So maganda sigurong kamustahin muna natin sila para marinig din ni Secretary ang kanilang kwento. Umpisahan po natin sa ating grade 8 learner from Kagangohan National High School, si Kimberly Licaros. Kamusta ang iyong pag-aaral at paano ka natutulungan ng iyong mga guro ngayong ipinatutupad ang distance learning?
Masaya at maganda po yung pag-aaral ko ngayon, yung distance learning. At katulad po ng dati, patuloy ko pa rin pong ipinagbubuti yung pag-aaral ko kahit nung simula ay naninibago, pero ngayon ay unti-unting nasasanay at nag-e-enjoy ako sa pag-aaral. At ngayong distance learning po, malaki po talaga ang naitulong ng mga guro sa amin, sa aming mga estudyante, lalo na ngayong nasa kanya-kanya kaming mga tahanan, mga estudyante, posible po talagang mapaghinaan ng loob yung mga estudyante at nawalan ng pag-asa. At nandyan po yung mga guro namin na handang araw-araw na magpaalala sa amin na dapat patuloy lang yung laban, huwag tayong sumuko, patuloy yung pag-aaral.
Okay, Kimberly, ano naman ang inaasahan mong suporta ngayong 2021-2022?
Ang inaasahan ko pong suporta ngayong school year po ay syempre yung suporta ng mga guro sa aming mga estudyante na kahit nasa tahanan kami, patuloy silang na kumukonekta sa aming mga mag-aaral at nangungumusta dahil isa rin po yun sa mga kailangan naming mga estudyante at suporta ng mga magulang namin dahil hindi po namin kaya itong laban na to kung wala sila at yung mga suporta din po ng barangay namin. Dahil yung pangangailangan ng eskwelahan ay pangangailangan din po naming mga mag-aaral. At syempre po yung suporta ng DepEd, yung suporta ng suporta sa edukasyon naming mga mag-aaral. Dahil yung mga pagsusumikap nila, yung mga nagagawa nila ay nagiging rason po kung bakit patuloy kaming nag-aaral, nagsusumikap na makapagtapos.
Maraming salamat, Kimberly. At ngayon dumako naman po tayo sa ating parent na may learner po sa JP Laurel Elementary School SPED Center na si Miss Stephanie Montesino. Bilang magulang po, paano nyo nagagabayan ang pag-aaral ng inyong mga anak ngayong ipinatutupad ang distance learning?
Maraming salamat po sa inyong tanong po. Bilang magulang, alam ko na marami ang na nakikisang-ayon sa akin na hindi naging madali ang pag-adjust ng mga mag-aaral, lalong-lalo na ng aking mga anak sa distance learning. Naging hamon ito, bagkus ito ay naging inspirasyon din para sa akin upang mas lalo ko pong pagbutihin ang aking paggabay sa kanila. At dahil dyan, ang pagbibigay ng sapat na oras ng dinami-dami gawain, hindi lang isang magulang, binibigyan ko po ng sincero na pagbibigay ng oras upang sila ay sabayan po sa kanilang pag-aaral sapagkat alam ko na hindi sa lahat ng oras madali para sa kanila ang pag-aaral ng sila-sila lang po.
Okay, paano niyo po pinaigting ang inyong suporta sa inyong anak ngayong school year?
Sa pamamagitan ng constant communication at komunikasyon, para sa akin, hindi sa lahat ng oras nasa mabuting kalagayan or pag-aaral ang ating mga anak. So sa pamamagitan ng constant communication sa kanila, mas naibabahagi ko po ang kanilang ang aking suporta at maisakatuparan po ang aking pagbibigay ng oras sa kanila, gaya nga ng sabi ko kanina, yung oras ko. At syempre, lalong-lalo na sa pagbibigay ng emosyonal na suporta, dyan ko mas aking mga anak na kasabay mo na ito sa pagpapatuloy ng pag-aaral at sa pagpapatuloy sa pagsusuporta din sa iba't ibang programa ng DepEd at nagpapasalamat rin po ako sa mga magulang, kapwa magulang at syempre sa kanilang mga teachers dito na patuloy ang pakikibaka po sa panahong ito. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat po at ngayon may kasama din po tayong teacher from Kagangohan National High School, si Ma'am Helden Shalinay Deloy. Ma'am, ano-ano yung mga trainings na dinaluhan ninyo at paano ito nakatulong sa inyong pagtuturo sa ilalim ng distance learning?
Una sa lahat, masasabi ko na marami akong nasalihan ng mga virtual trainings at webinars. Kaulapkit nito, natutuhan ko ang paggawa ng video, graphic design, at kahit ang paggawa ng module. Ito ay napaka-epektibong source of education sa ating mga kabataan ngayong distance learning. Bagamat nasa panahon tayo ng pandemya, hindi ito hadlang para makubuo ng masining na pagtuturo sa ating mga mag-aaral. Maaring magtalaga tayo ng bagong estratehiya at bagong teknolohiya sa paggawa ng ating mga module para makatulong ito sa ating pagtuturo. At naniniwala din ako na ang ating mga mag-aaral pa rin ang nasa gitna ng ating pagtuturo sa kabila ng hamon ng pandemya. Yun po.
Ano naman ang maaaring iambag mo para maisakatuparan ang ligtas na balik eskwela?
Upang mapanatiling malusog at ang ating mga kabataan at ang ating pag-aaral ngayong balik eskwela, magagabayan ko sila at itiyakin ko ang pagpapatuloy sa pagsunod sa DOH at IATF protocols. Una sa lahat, bilang isang guro, mapapatupad ko ang pagsagawa ng ng DOH at IATF protocols magitan ng pagsuot ng face mask at face shield sa loob ng paaralan. Titiyakin ko na may pondong alcohol sa ating mga classrooms, may disinfection kits, cleaning sets, at iba't ibang mga material na magagamit ng ating mga magulang sa pagkuha ng module, sa mga ganong paraan. Tapos, titiyakin ko din na may sapat na tubig sa mga hand washing facility sa loob ng paaralan. At hangad ko ang kalidad ng edukasyon sa kabila ng hamon ng pandemya.
Maraming salamat, ma'am. At ngayon, narinig natin ang ating learner, parent, at teacher. At ngayon naman po, dumako tayo sa ating mga media partners at mag-uumpisa po tayo tungkol sa limited face-to-face classes. Ngayon po, narito ang ating kaibigan from the Edge Davao, Miss Maya Padillo. Ngayon po ay akin pong babanggitin ang mga questions ni Miss Maya Padillo. Meron po siyang ipinadalang 2 katanungan. Secretary Liling, ang una po, is it possible to add more schools since COVID cases are now declining? And how prepared is DepEd kung may mag-positive na students during the face-to-face classes?
That is an excellent question, Maya, because it responds to the concerns of parents. Paano kung halimbawa magkaroon ng problema o challenge, no? Sa unang bahagi ng tanong, is it possible to add more schools? Yes, kasi we have a maximum universe of 100 schools na pinapayagan tayo ng presidente. And right now, ang pinakabagong figure ay 77 schools na. So we still have 23 more schools to go to fill up the 100. And then you have the private schools as well as the international schools as well. So pwede yan. Ang crucial dyan yung combination ng requirements ng Department of Education and the standards that are imposed by the Department of Health, as well as the willingness of the local governments to host such pilot projects that we are now undertaking. So, yun our situation. Ngayon, yun ang situation natin. Tapos, how prepared is DepEd? We have been preparing for this since last year pa. Kasi naniniwala ang DepEd na even as we have moved into blended learning, kasi initially nagkaroon tayo ng very short period of lockdown, di ba? Initially nag-lockdown tayo ng ilang buwan, tapos pagka-October last year, nag-open tayo ng classes. So talagang pinaghandaan ito ay medyo matagal-tagal na. Tapos prinodin natin ang concept, nag-consultation tayo, at para sa akin maganda yung decision na kailangang humingi tayo ng cooperation at saka ng advice ng Department of Health so that hindi naman tayo magkamali na maski na qualified ang isang eskwelahan ay kung may risgo naman na magkaroon ng pa-expose ang ating kabataan at ang ating teachers, ay siyempre hindi natin yan tutuloy. So ulitin ko, is it possible to add more schools? Yes, because we have 23 more schools to go. And after the opening on November 15, I intend to report to the President kung anong nangyari, kung ano ang estado. Then he can decide kung i-expand natin. Kasi ang goal naman talaga natin ay as many schools as possible. Kailangan may face-to-face component. Recognize natin na mahalaga ang papel ng face-to-face sessions with the teachers and also in a school environment. Pero gusto din ko rin i-emphasize na yung face-to-face na ating dinedevelop ngayon ay ibang-iba sa face-to-face na nakasanayan natin. Na the whole day, all the subjects, kaharap natin ang teachers, nandyan sila palagi o kanilang mga assistants. Ngayon, it's more or less limited. Depende sa estado ng facility, depende sa consent ng local governments at saka sa assessment ng Department of Health. I'm not aware na mayroong bansa na completely face-to-face araw-araw all throughout the class hours, nandoon yung teacher at saka mga estudyante. Usually, limited ito at saka talagang ang buzzword among the different countries na nakausap namin only a few weeks, 2 weeks ago, I chaired a meeting of ministers of education in ASEAN and also in Southeast Asia. Yung sa CIMEO natin na group of ministers of education, pabalik-balik yung concept ng blended learning. Halo talaga. May halong ICT, may halong distance, at saka may halong face-to-face. Hindi na kagaya na talagang the whole day nasa school ang bata at relax ang parents dahil nasa school ang bata. Ngayon, malaki ang role ng parents, malaki ang role din ng local governments kung sakali man kailangan ng tulong nila. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po. Ito pa rin po ay tungkol sa limited face-to-face classes. Ang katanungan po ay nanggaling kay Miss Rose Bernales of DXRD Sunshine Radio. Ano daw po ang stand or guidelines ng DepEd tungkol sa possible implementation ng mga guro na fully vaccinated lang ang pwedeng makasali or magturo sa face-to-face classes?
Natin ay fully vaccinated teachers para ma-increase yung kanilang resistance at ma-lessen naman ang risk, no? So depende yan sa school kasi each school is different one from the other. At saka ngayon napakataas na ng rate ng vaccination ng teachers. More than halos mag-70% na sa mga schools na napili natin, at saka mataas din ang rate ng vaccination rate sa the rest of the schools, no? So siguro hindi na ito magiging masyadong malaking debate. And besides, you have to consider the parents. If the parents are not confident na ang magtuturo sa kanilang anak o sa kanilang learner ay hindi vaccinated, then we have to respect the wishes of the parents as well. So itong mga bagay na ito, binabalanse natin. And we have this kind of, as I said, debate which is gaining, medyo na-reduce na ang intensity ng debate dahil kusa namang dumadami ngayon ang nagpapavaccinate. Lalo na nung sinabi ni Secretary Galvez na wala na yung ranking kasi halimbawa ang mga teachers sa bandang na sila, anong stage ng pagbabaksin. Ngayon kung sinong gusto magpabaksin ay vaccinate na. And we have always been encouraging also our teachers and our staff to go to their local governments kasi yung mga local governments nag-vaccinate na rin ang kanilang citizens for their own protection. Dahil nakita natin kung anong nangyayari sa ibang mga local government units, sa ibang mga regions na kung saan tumataas bigla ang level ng COVID infection dahil mayroong hindi vaccinated, mayroon namang vaccinated, and so on. So, yun ang situation ngayon sa Department of Education. Pag sasabihin ng parents, ayaw ko yung anak ko na ma-expose sa teacher or staff na hindi vaccinated, hindi natin mapipilit. Kung sasabihin ng local government na papayag kaming you will hold your face-to-face pilot, basta vaccinated yung teachers and staff ninyo, yun ang ating susundin and we will fully cooperate. Preference talaga yung vaccinated na teacher.
Salamat po. At ang susunod naman po na magtatanong ay si Mr. Marlon Marces ng 93.9 IFM News Davao. Ngayon, si Sir Marlon Marces. Okay, ito po ang katanungan ni Mr.
Hello po.
Hello po.
Yes po.
Marces, yes. Go ahead po.
Yes po. Secretary, ano po ang gagawin ng DepEd against sa mga teachers na ayaw magpabakuna?
Tayo ang gagawin sa kanila, pero at the same time, may mga incentives din tayo para sa mga nagpapabakuna. Kasi ina-encourage talaga natin dahil na i-enhance yung kanilang safety, not only for themselves but also for the learners that they are handling, and to allay also the concern of parents and of local governments.
Secretary,
sabi ko nga kanina na napakataas na ng level ng percentage ng mga teachers na nagpapabakuna in the pilot schools.
Thank you po, Secretary.
Oo, na bumababa na yung, as I said, ng level ng intensity of the debate dahil dumadami na yung nagpapabakuna para sa mga pilot schools. And perhaps si Roger can attest to this. Roger, sa ating planning, nandyan ba?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for sa pagbababakuna, I can speak, ma'am, doon sa mga pilots. Based po sa report ng ating operation, many of the schools na magpa-pilot ngayon, yung sa 7%, marami na po doon ng 100% vaccinated. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga teachers sa mga schools na yun ay vaccinated na. Kung mayroong mang hindi pa kompleto, may mga naka-first dose na. So kaya nga tama si Secretary, kumbaga halos i-reduce na yung issue on the vaccination ng teachers kung mataas na po talaga yung percentage of vaccination, especially dito sa ating mga napiling mga schools. Mataas na po talaga, marami ng 100% na fully vaccinated yung mga teachers natin.
Maraming salamat po, Director Roger. May katanungan pa po ba, Mr. Marlon Marces? Okay, we can now proceed to another question, this time from Radyo Pilipinas Davao, from Mr. Armando Fenequito. Ang katanungan niyo po, magiging liable po ba ang school kung mag-positive sa COVID-19 ang estudyante sa loob ng school or while traveling dahil sa face-to-face class, lalo na at maraming kabataan na hindi pa matuturukan ng bakuna?
Right now, una, very clear sa worldwide research, saka sa research natin, na ang kabataan, mas mataas ang resistensya nila sa COVID-19. Kaya mismo, mga pediatric experts, sinasuggest nila na yung mga younger children, doon tayo mag-focus ng attention dahil yung level of resistance nila ay napakataas naman. Pero, and this is the second matter that we have to consider, hindi pa tayo nagpa-pilot face-to-face. We already have isolated instances of children catching COVID. Bigger children, yung mga pamilya-pamilya. At nakuha nila yan, hindi dahil face-to-face. Wala pa naman tayong face-to-face. Hindi pa natin na-implement, pero we have isolated instances. Ito nakukuha sa iba't ibang lugar. And this is why sa bahay, minsan kung buong pamilya, pero I know of cases na buong pamilya lahat may COVID except children. Ngayon, so itong bagay na ito, we have to recognize if na with or without face-to-face, you will have, as I said, isolated cases of children catching COVID from elsewhere. I know one particular case na kinontact tracing galing sa parents kasi yung parent na galing sa abroad, halimbawa. At somehow na-infect siya, na-infect din yung bata. No? Wala pa yung face-to-face. So we cannot draw the conclusion that if mayroong, yun ang warning sa atin nga, advice sa atin ng Department, ng World Health Organization, we might have instances of COVID infections during the time of the pilot na baka sasabihin dahil nag-pilot tayo. Kasi ngayon nga, we have isolated instances. And this probably helps us to understand why the president has been so reluctant and why even Secretary Galvez is also reluctant in the light of these developments. So yun ang we have to bear that in mind. Kung halimbawa during the pilot, tapos magkaroon tayo, and God forbid, we are all praying that it will not happen, kung may bata o may teacher na may infect, it does not necessarily mean na sa school yun napulot. Kasi mayroong mga ibang lugar na pagpapunta sa eskwelahan, sa public transport, sa pamamahay. Kaya nga sabi nga namin, sa iba't ibang lugar, kung hindi uuwi kaagad ang bata sa bahay nila. So kailangan mahalaga yung contact tracing. At saka mayroon tayong tinatawag na contingency plan sa bawat eskwelahan na kung sakali man may ganyong klaseng pangangailangan, the exact steps are already outlined. Number 1, number 2, number 3, ganito ang gagawin. Kasi we have to recognize that like it or not, if such accidents happen, we have to be prepared, as there are now isolated instances, even without face-to-face, which is recognized. And I have had conversations with Secretary Galvez on this, which helps us to understand why we are taking all the precautions possible. We want to cover all the bases. Yung sa project na ito, sa pilot study na ito, to minimize talaga the risk involved. Kaya kasama talaga ang Department of Health. At saka kailangan mabilis ang contact tracing and so on. Para naman magkaroon naman ng assurance ang mga parents lalo na ang kanilang mga kabataan ay safe, even as we take care of their mental as well as their psychosocial needs. Thank you.
Secretary Liling, ito ay karagdagang katanungan din po mula kay Mr. Armando Feniquito. Ang pagpayag ng parents po ba sa face-to-face class ay nangangahulugan na risk ito na pinasok ng parent para sa kanyang anak?
You are a media person, and the media has been reporting on demands of parents themselves who go on television, who speak on radio. They don't want the responsibility of teaching their children only to themselves because they are working and so on and so forth. May parents na nagdedemand talaga ng face-to-face. They're very vocal. They have been quite audible. Dinig na dinig yan. So, kaya nga sinabi namin, kailangan may consent ang parents. At saka, alam mo, I must say that this is a feature of our program na maski tumagal, it is very, very careful. I'm not aware na kinukuha ang may maraming countries na kumukuha muna ng parents' consent na mag face-to-face ang kanilang mga anak. Then sasabihin lang itong face-to-face, how many hours a day, etc., etc. Immediately after class, go home, no loitering, no climbing up trees, no contact playing, yung mga maghahabulan and so on, which we are used to. No? So, may mga parents talagang nagdi-demand nito and have spoken very loudly and critically on media, and we are all aware of this. So now we respect their demands, but at the same time, we also have parents now that we are implementing the program who need also assurance that the safety of their children is being safeguarded. Kaya we are doing everything possible na mapoprotect ang mga bata while they are on pilot. I'm not aware na mayroong ganito ka masugid at detalyadong implementation sa ibang mga bansa. Dahil kami ay palagi kaming nakikibalita kung anong mga nangyayari. Saka yung medyo palaging sinasabi na tayo na lang at saka yung isang bansa na kawawa naman yung isang bansa, palagi na lang kino-compare sa atin. Ito na lang, Pilipinas at saka itong bansa, yun na lang ang hindi nag-face-to-face. I know, for example, ang isang parang kapatid nating bansa, halos twin natin, ay November pa sila mag-face-to-face. We know about one Southeast Asian country. Nag-face-to-face sila, pero nung nag-surge, winidraw nila. So each country develops its programs according to what is happening really in the field. And that is also what we are trying to do. At saka yung tanong, I think the questions are excellent dahil ina-articulate ninyo yung concern ng parents at ng society now that we are implementing it. Before at the height of the debate, hindi naman ganito kaano yung mga concerns. Ang malakas talagang demand is that face-to-face, face-to-face, face-to-face. Now we are implementing face-to-face, very limited. Only 77 schools. Ngayon, naglalabasan na itong mga concerns na ito, which we respect and which we recognize and which we have to prepare for. And we thank you for raising those issues at this time. Saka hindi yan totoo na yung isang bansa na lang. Kung ako yung isang bansa na yan, may insulto ako palagi na lang pinapartner sa Philippines na wala naman silang pakialam o relasyon sa ating diretso. Yan na lang. Pilipinas na lang at saka itong bansang ito ang hindi nag-face-to-face. Alam ko na atrasulong yung ginagawa ng ibang bansa. Pag mayroong development, tinitigil nila. Pag okay na, patuloy na naman sila. At saka, palagay ko, ganun din ang gagawin natin. Yun ang ginagawa natin. Ganun katindi ang care na binubuhos natin sa programang ito.
Isang katanungan from Mr. Armando Feniquito. May talks na po ba daw with DOH and IATF regarding sa pediatric COVID-19 vaccination for basic education learners? At kung meron na po, ilang learners po ang target at pati na ang vaccination po nito?
Matagal nang may talks tayo kasi ina-anticipate natin na dadating ang panahon na papayag na ang presidente. So we have been consulting them all the time dahil ang level of expertise ng DepEd is of course teaching, learning, and so on. Pero yung expertise sa COVID at saka sa mga bata, sa mga sakit ng bata ay nasa mga pediatric experts. And we have associations of pediatric physicians, researchers, and also the Department of Health na talagang tinitingnan ito na nag-specialize sila sa mga bata. Sila mismo ang nag-advise na kung itutuloy man ang face-to-face, mabuting mag-concentrate sa mga younger children. Ulitin ko, una, mas mataas ang level ng resistance nila at saka resilience itong mga batang ito. Secondly, and this is important, the younger children need face-to-face more than the older children because we are in the process of shaping their values, their social mores. We're in the process of allowing them to absorb our culture, our ways of doing things. And also their brains are growing, and it is good to be around when this event is happening. sila mismo napagkakapal ng paper na sinubmit sa atin, strongly advising na start with the younger children. And I think it really makes sense. Although on the surface, sasabihin natin, nako, bakit yung mga bata ang ina-expose? Why the younger children? Why not the older children? Pero if you want to shape their moral conduct, if you want to shape their level of socialization, if you want to enhance their mental health, and if you want to set the framework for learning, you start them young. And ako lang, in this matter of grammar, complain tayo. Our children, mali-mali yung grammar, mali-mali. Pati yung math. Ako, I believe that kung doon ka na sa tertiary level, university level, tuturuan mo ng grammar at saka math at saka whatever, it's too late already. Dahil na-ingrained na yung mga study habits, na-ingrained na yung values sa isang bata. So start them young. And this is an example. We have been talking with them for the longest time. Dahil hindi naman namin linya ito. Tinatanong namin. At saka yung press conference natin, if you will recall, ang nag-attend yung mga presidente at opisyales at saka yung talagang pediatric experts na sila mismo ang nagsabi na mas mabuti na doon mag-focus tayo sa younger children. Pero alam din natin na importante na bigyan ng atensyon ang ating mga older children. So mayroon din tayo para sa junior high at saka sa senior high. Thank you. Thank you for the question dahil it expresses what parents now are articulating. Kasi dati ang debate face-to-face, face-to-face, face-to-face. Now that that is a settled matter, we go to the actual operationalization, which you are now expressing in behalf of concerned sectors. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Liling. Bago po tayo dumako sa vaccination na po, meron po ba tayong rejoinder tungkol po sa face-to-face classes from Assistant Secretary Malcolm Garma po?
It would
Asek
be good
Garma.
if we can join the conversation because mas maraming details at maraming numbers at saka sa field talaga yung data nila.
Yes, magandang umaga po sa lahat. Ayong buntag sa tanan, diha sa Davao Region. Ma'am, magandang umaga po. Siguro, unahin ko lang po muna, Secretary, na kumpirmahin yung nabigay po ninyong numero kanina. So, mula po doon sa unang naibalita natin, doon po sa sinagawa nating pulong balitaan na 30 paaralan, ang magtutuloy ng limited face-to-face ngayong darating na ika-15 ng Nobyembre. So matapos po nating matanggap yung ikatlong listahan ng galing po sa DOH na kinabibilangan po ng mahigit 300 paaralan na maaari na pong maisama dito po sa ating gagawing limited face-to-face, ay tumaas na po ito sa bilang na 77. Maari pa hong tumaas ito, Secretary. Hinihintay pa ho natin yung final na ulat mula po sa Region 1 at hanggang sa makumpleto po natin yung ating pong 100 pampublikong paaralan at 20 pampribadong paaralan. Ito pong numero na ito, gusto ko lamang po ding bigyang diin na bakit 100 lang o 20 pribadong paaralan. Ito po ay batay sa naging desisyon ng ating Pangulo at ito po ang sinasaad doon sa ating joint memorandum circular between DepEd at saka DOH. At gaya nga rin po na naging tugon ng ating kalihim na matapos po yung panahon na pag-aaralan natin yung 100 pampublikong paaralan at 20 pribadong paaralan, at ito po ay may ulat natin sa ating Pangulo. Ito po yung maaring maghudyat na pwede na ho nating madagdagan yung ating mga paaralan. So siguro ang gusto ko lamang po ding dagdag, no, doon po sa mga nag-aalangan o mga nagkakaroon ng agam-agam, lalong-lalo na po sa ating mga magulang. Ito pong ginagawa nating programa, implementasyon ng pilot face-to-face, ay talaga pong nagkaroon po ng masusing pag-aaral. Sa katunayan, matapos po ang pagsusuri ng DOH, batay po sa kalagayan ng mga lugar na kung saan nandito ang mga paaralan natin, ay isinasailalim pa ho natin sa susunod na pagsusuri yung ating mga napiling paaralan. Kaya nga po, hindi naman lahat ng nasasama doon sa listahan ng DOH ay naisasama natin dito sa ating magsisimula na mga eskwelahan ngayong ika-15 ng Nobyembre, sapagkat kailangan natin una-una yung pagpayag ng mga magulang, pagpayag ng local government unit, at yung kasalukuyang kalagayan doon sa lugar nila, lalong-lalo na po sa may kinalaman sa COVID. So ito po ang mga paraan upang masiguro natin at maiwasan kung sakasakali nga na magkaroon po ng pagkakahawa-hawa. No? Ito pong ating mga mag-aaral o yung mga guro natin at kawani nalalahok dito sa ating pilot face-to-face. At ma'am, gusto ko lang pong bigyang diin yung natanong kanina na magiging liable ba ang ating eskwelahan kung sakaling may mahawa. Napaliwanag na po ng ating kalihim na hindi lang, marami pong dahilan kung bakit mahahawa ang isang mag-aaral o guro, no, sa COVID. Pero siguro ma'am, ang kailangan nating tingnan ay meron bang kapabayaan yung paaralan nung sinagawa nila yung face-to-face. Yun po yung titingnan natin sa parte po, bahagi ng DepEd. Yun po yung imo-monitor natin ng masusi kung merong naging kapabayaan. At yun po ang magiging batayan para masabi natin kung meron bang pananagutan ang ating po mga paaralan kung sakaling mangyari. Pero sana nga po at sa awa po ng Panginoon ay wala naman po mangyaring ganito. At matapos po yung pag-uulat ay sa Pangulo, pwede na ho natin sigurong mapagdesisyonan din kung ilang pa hong eskwelahan ang posibleng madagdag hanggang sa ito po ay dumami na. So, ma'am, yun lang po muna sa ngayon bilang tugon sa mga naunang tanong na. Maraming salamat po.
Daghang salamat, ASEC Malcolm Garma. At ngayon patuloy pa rin po tayo tungkol sa vaccination. Narito po ang isang kaibigan natin from News 4, ang ating media partner, si Miss Ruth Palo. Hello, Miss Ruth.
Ay, okay. Good morning po. Good morning kay Sec Liling. Oo, ito po yung question ko, Secretary. Ang una po is yung reaction nyo, ma'am, sa 8.7 billion pesos na budget cut ng Department of Education. Ano-ano po, Secretary, yung mga programang apektado sa slash ng budget ng ahensya from 25.2 billion pesos in 2021 to 16.5 billion in next year's budget, Secretary?
Magandang tanong yan kasi basic law in economics that resources are always inadequate, are never enough for actual needs. No? Palagi yan, hindi pa nangyayari, pambihira lang yung nangyayari na sobra-sobrang resources in relation to needs. Needs are always more than wants. And this is true not only for the department, but also in the economy as well. And so it's a very good question. I would like to refer you for the details. Nandito ngayon kasama natin si Yusik Ann para masabi niya ang ginagawa natin. May kasabihan tayo na kung ano nga ba yun na sa Pilipino na kung maikli yung kumot, di matuto tayong magbaluktot o matuto tayong halimbawa mag-cut sa ibang mga programs natin para makahanap tayo ng additional resources. pwede tayong mag-external fundraising also. At saka mayroong mga schools na maswerte sila na talagang napakatindi ang support ng local governments at saka ng parent teachers associations. But gusto sana natin na kung anong mga increases in the budget will benefit all of our schools and all of our institutions. So I refer you to Yusik Ann so she can tell you where we have to make adjustments. Yusik Ann.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Liling. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga sa Region 11. Gusto ko lang din pong malinawan yung figures kasi na binigay niya ay nakakalito. We do not have a 25 billion budget. Our budget is not only 16.5 billion as well. So just to make my response very clear, pwede po ba natin ulit makausap yung ating kaibigan sa media na nagtanong?
Yes, ma'am. Opo. Yun yung lumabas na figure, ma'am, sa sa newspaper po.
Oh, baka ibang ahensya po 'yan, ma'am, kasi para po malinawan natin ang budget po ng
Sige,
Department
give
of
us the exact figure na lang, ma'am.
Correct.
Give the exact figure.
Maraming salamat. Ang budget po natin sa Department of Education ay 629.8 billion. So malayo po dun sa 15 billion na inyo pong nabanggit kanina. 629 billion compared to the 590 billion last year. So yun po yung kaibahan ng budget na sinasabi namin. 595 ngayong taon, magiging 630.7 billion. So wala rin po kaming decrease. Increase po ang budget natin to 630 billion, not 60 billion as mentioned earlier. Meron din po mga bumaba na mga budget. Of course, kagaya ng sinabi ng ating Secretary Leonor, mas marami ang gustong gawin ng DepEd. In fact, our proposal is almost 1.7 trillion. Yun po yung amount na pang DepEd. At doon po sa bumaba ang budget, kalahati po yung bumaba sa ating school feeding program. From 6 billion, ito ay magiging 3.3 billion. Yun din pong ating basic education facilities, ibig sabihin yung pagpapagawa ng eskwelahan, yung repair, yung school furniture. Dati po yan, ngayong taon 11 billion yan. Next year, 5 billion na lang. So malaki po yung binaba niyan, more than half ang binaba niyan. Bumaba din po yung indigenous people education from 159 million to 51 billion. At yung pong ating flexible learning options, ibig sabihin yung pagpapagawa ng mga learning resources natin kagaya ng modules. Kasi si Secretary Liling ay meron pong direksyon. Mahal at mahirap na palagi tayo nagpiprint ng modules. Kawawa naman yung ating mga puno. At alam natin na nahihirapan din ang ating production team dahil even the suppliers are finding it hard to produce our materials for that. Kaya nga po meron ding digital education. Kanina nakikinig ako sa inyo sa Region 11. Napakaganda ng inyong radio-based instructions. May DepEd TV tayo na kanina ine-explain natin. Pati po yung pag-shift natin to online learning. At saka ito pong limited face-to-face. Pag nangyari po yan, naging successful, ibig sabihin, babalik po yung dati nating pagtuturo kung saan ang mga guro ay nakikita ulit yung ating mga mag-aaral. So yun po yung mga bumaba ng mga programa. Ulitin ko yung school-based feeding program. Although tuloy-tuloy po tayo, no, kahit na wala tayong face-to-face, ay nabigay po tayo ng Nutriban at saka mga fresh milk. Yun po yung package ngayon. At yung education facilities, kasi meron na po tayong Mandanas ruling kung saan tutulong po ang ating mga 1st to 4th class cities and municipalities sa pagpupondo ng ating mga school building. So yun po yung update natin sa budget. At again, kukorek po natin yung amount, 630.7 billion for this year compared to 595 billion. At yan po ay 6% increase for next year. So maraming salamat po sa inyong katanungan.
Thank you, ma'am. I still have another question, Secretary Liling, ma'am. With regards to population of teachers in the country, Secretary, specifically in Region 11, may we know kung ilan po yung population ng teachers who are vaccinated already and those who are not, Secretary, and please elaborate yung reasons of unvaccinated teachers. Thank you, Secretary.
Ang nagbigay ng detailed reasons, of course, is our regional director, is based right in Region 11. Kung nandito siya ngayon, makakatulong siya sa pagsagot sa tanong mo. Iba't iba kasi ang reason, no? Mayroong nagsasabi na it is the religion forbids it. So I have been doing my own research. Ano bang religion which religions are against vaccination, at saka I'm trying to do research na at the time when the religions that we have been that many of us are members of, mayroon na bang vaccination ng mga panahon na yan na pinagbabawal, at saka the only verse that I can think of is yung sinasabi na yung ating physical body, ang katawan natin is the Lord's temple, no? So hindi natin yan abusuhin. Pero kung we are protecting our physical temples, temple of God yung ating physical system, then perhaps that argument may not hold na. I don't know. So si RD Alan might be in the best position to give us information. Kasi nag-brief siya sa MANCOM at saka sa EXICOM namin sa situation dito sa Davao, sa Region 11. Nandiyan ba kasi,
thank you very much, Ma'am Liling. Maraming salamat sa pagkakataon na makapag-provide tayo ng context ng Davao Region. Actually, Ma'am Liling, ang status ng teacher vaccination sa Region 11 at the moment ay 83.22% na yung mga guro natin na inoculate on first dose. And this already represent, this is already around 41,345. Ang ating ang ating total plantilla items sa Davao Region, Ma'am Liling, ay 48,522. Ngunit ASIC Malcolm, hindi naman lahat ito ay filled items. Meron tayong mga unfilled items, Ma'am Liling, na around 4,000 to 5,000. Kaya ang picture ng Davao Region ay around 4,000 plus na lang ng teachers natin ang hindi pa na-inoculate. Sa mga susunod na linggo ay ine-expect natin na pati yung completion ng second dose ay aabot na Ma'am Liling sa 80.79 kasi ang datos natin ngayon ay over 75% na ang nakapag-complete. Nasa second stage na tayo ng campaign, Ma'am Liling, ng pag-address sa mga teachers na may anxiety on vaccination. Ang unang level ng ating pag-address, Ma'am Liling, tama yung sinasabi mo, we need really, and we need also to recognize these anxieties because some of these anxieties are really, really very valid. No? We have to also recognize that we are a country with doubts about, dumaan tayo sa mga vaccination doubts. So ang unang stage natin ng pag-address ng mga teachers, Ma'am Liling, na may anxiety sa vaccination is through the effort of our guidance counselors group into conducting a counseling session with those teachers na medyo may anxiety about vaccination. And we're very happy, Ma'am Liling, to report to you that around 900 of these teachers immediately availed the vaccination after that. So dahan-dahan natin, of course, yung may mga special medical cases, Ma'am Liling, we need really to take special attention to that. And so nasa ganung level na tayo ngayon ng pag-a-address. In fact, ine-expand na rin natin, Ma'am Liling, ang vaccination program ng mga teachers natin. Sa Davao City mismo, Ma'am Liling, ay meron na tayong programa na one teacher ay magpapakuna ng 3 members of family. Ito yung tinatawag nating family immunity status na tayo because hindi lang pwede na si teacher lang ang safe, yung membro ng kanyang pamilya. And that's the status of the vaccination efforts for all our teachers in Davao Region. Maraming salamat, Ma'am Liling.
If I may continue, yung anxiety, kasi they've heard so much about how painful it is. Kaya I know of people who are very hesitant to be vaccinated dahil takot sila sa pain, lalo na kung tutusukin yung ilong nila, and you hear some horror stories as well. I don't know if I can give myself as an example. Maya-maya, sinaswab ako kasi if I go to Malacanang for meetings or I have to go out of town, kasi yung opisina namin ay bubble ang arrangement. If I have to go out of my office for talagang hindi maiiwasan na event of duty, I have to be vaccinated and to be swabbed. So, I have stopped counting the number of times that I have been swabbed kasi sabi nila masakit. And also yung sa vaccination at my age of 81, complete na yung aking vaccination at absolutely walang effect sa akin. Immediately after being vaccinated, I returned to work because hindi pwedeng iwanan ang trabaho natin. So itong mga reactions na ito are either the fear of being tusok-tusok, whether it is your nose or whether it is your arm na tutusukin. Some people who consider themselves as very brave, matapang na matapang, makakita lang ng karayom, medyo ninervyos na. So perhaps we should exert more effort in addressing these fears and these worries, aside from the so-called from what is claimed to be religious practice or religious prohibition. It's sa tingin ko a large I will not say majority, I have no way of saying it's majority, that a significant number of those who refuse to be vaccinated is really anxiety over the tusok-tusok part of it, the sight of what they look at as a huge needle, and all the stories about side effects and fever and so on and so forth. Hindi pa nangyari, we are already worried about it. So maybe we should step up our campaign, but it seems that on their own, our teachers and staff are getting more and more of them are convinced. See, when we started, si Roger made a study before, no, yung nationwide study kung about all these things, no, kung magpa-vaccinate ba sila o mag-participate ba sila, and the was na very, very low ang percentage ng willing to participate. But now, kita natin, nagwa 100% na, nag-80%, nagsi-70% among the schools, which shows that our teachers and our staff are now convinced that ang level ng safety and protection nila is somehow increased if they are vaccinated. So, ayun. Ganun ang nangyari noon. We have had a series of smallpox epidemics. We have had cholera epidemics, dysentery epidemics, and in one province, may epidemics of boils na during the war years, so many people had huge boils on their legs and on their body, mga infections. Pero all of these have to be now recognized as treatable. So, ganun lang siguro. Kaya ang sabi ko nga kanina, hindi na kasing desperate o kasing urgent yung matter of involving vaccinated teachers kasi marami na talaga sila even in the selected pilot schools who are already fully vaccinated. And I would like to, as I said, share my own experience. Walang effect sa akin. I went back to work immediately in the 2 instances. But for other people, they have reactions, of course. Ang last word dyan is the doctor. Pag magsabi yung doktor na pwede daw, take care, etc., then we listen to the doctor. This is why we have the Department of Health. All the time na at our which we consult the department, we consult the department very frequently, and we have frequent meetings with them. Kasi matter of health ito, matter of life, and also the life of our children.
Maraming salamat po, Director Alan at Secretary Liling. Meron pa rin po tayong katanungan. Ito pa rin po ay tungkol sa vaccination pero meron pong kaugnayan sa election guidelines. On the election guidelines po by COMELEC, ano ang agreement ng DepEd with COMELEC regarding sa oras na 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. na pagboto? At mga fully vaccinated lang na guro ang magse-serve as BOI.
Naman, ang may say talaga, ang last word dito is COMELEC. Kasi this is their event and we are assisting them. They are depending on our teachers. Traditionally, the teachers are depended on. Talagang naniniwala tayo sa mga teachers during the election period na kung anong bilang nila, yun na. Naniniwala tayo na that they are willing to take the risks, etc. So, nasa COMELEC yan kung ano ang requirement nila. As far as we are concerned, ang ating major focus of interest is our pilot face-to-face at saka yung magpa-participate sa electoral exercise. Ang COMELEC ang magde-decide kung i-vaccinate ba o hindi yung mga they will require vaccination. Kasi hindi lang naman teachers. Pero ang first choice nila talaga teacher. If you will read the law, first choice is teacher at saka kung hindi available lahat na teachers, then they can also reach out to other sectors of our society. Pero first choice talaga teachers dahil nga sa ating paniniwala na totoo naman na ang teacher talaga will not tolerate cheating, magsasabi ng katotohanan, handang mag-sacrifice, etc. Ang aming ninegotiate sana sa COMELEC ay dagdagan ang allowances ng mga teacher. Kasi ngayon, there is also risk involved. At saka hindi lamang na mayroon tayong across the board na honorarium, sana ma-provide naman yung not only the usual food, but also transportation and other incentives which will attract the teachers to serve the electoral process. Also, I'd like to share with you, kasi tinanong yan ng Senado last year pa, papayag pa kayang ngayon na mag-serve sa election considering the pandemic. So, nag-survey din ang ating Undersecretary for Administration kung willing ba ang mga teachers na mag-serve pa sa election. Nag-indicate din sila na willing naman silang mag-serve. Walang nagsasabing ayaw nila. So, kasama din yan sa tradisyon na nagre-respond ang teachers natin positively to the faith, to the trust that is reposed on them during the electoral process. Thank you.
Po, Secretary Liling, at ngayon naman po, tungkol naman po ito sa mga modules. May katanungan po tayo mula kay Miss Angie Villones Chagas of Bombo, Radyo Davao. Meron po siyang dalawang katanungan, Secretary Liling. Ang una po, what are the changes implemented this school year under modular studies? At isang katanungan din po, 2 years na po ang blended learning pero bakit marami pa ring mga mali-mali sa modules ng mga estudyante? Wala po ba tayong specific na mga tao na itinalaga ng departamento para ito ay matutukan?
This is a signal to us that perhaps DepEd should share more information on what we are doing about the modules. Now, in the first place, yung sasabihin ko, i-enhance pa ni Yusef Dance, reduce natin yung tinatawag nating minimum learning competences, no, from 15,000 to about 5,000 so far as the module. At saka, I will challenge the claim that napakarami pa rin mali ang modules. Dahil Yusef Dance has the numbers to show na yung mga mali na nare-report, pakunti na ng pakunti. Ang isa pang tanong ay mayroon bang mechanism kung saan na monitor natin itong mga maling-maling module? Mayroong mechanism. At saka the public and the media has been very cooperative. The parents have been very cooperative. In several instances, parents ang nagre-report sa akin directly na sila ang nakakita nitong mga mali. And finally, again, I'd like to challenge that not all the so-called mistakes in the modules come or emanate from the Department of Education. Mayroong sumisingit ng mga kung ano-anong material na hindi naman nanggagaling sa DepEd. At hindi nga namin matatrack down. And more important is medyo kailangan na mas firm ang action ng DepEd sa mga issues na ito na sinasabing puno ng mali ang mga modules. But in the first place, saan ba natuto yung ating mga earlier, hindi naman sa amin, I tell you, 5 years lang kami. Oo. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on that lengthily. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin, hindi lahat ng mali na sinasabing modules ng DepEd ay modules ng DepEd. May mga instances, halimbawa in the case of Zambales, na sinasabing mayroong bastos doon na lengguwahe, it turns out na medyo may pagkukulang ang school mismo. So, yung teacher na gumawa ng module na yan, he was only in his 20s, hindi naman niya yung field, at saka yung supervisor, itong school na ito, sila institute ng disciplinary action. In the case of Cebu, for example, na the best excuse always is nakita ako sa Facebook kaya linagay ko doon sa module on the assumption that everything that comes out in Facebook is true or is factual. Yung material na ginamit ay imposibleng manggagaling sa Facebook because these are prohibited material, underground material, sabihin mong pinablish sa Facebook na kinopya lang ng teacher blindly. So yung mga ganon. Saka yung the usual excuse, typographical error, yung latest na complaint na may pangbabastos, etc. Kung titingnan mo, yung mga spelling dyan, ay imposible namang typographical error. One has to be very stupid to believe that kind of an excuse. So now we are more firm in imposing discipline on those which are produced by the Department of Education. Pero yung hindi namin yan aangkinin dahil hindi yan amin. Yung mga mali-mali na yan. At saka yung mga paglalait sa Department of Education, na hindi daw marunong mag-Ingles, hindi marunong mag-math. Well, the department is 123 years old. We have had 47 secretaries of education. I'm only the 47th. So we are doing what we can. We have a reporting system. Kung may makikita, welcome namin. And Yusik Dads can give the numbers. That's why I said I'm willing to debate na marami ang mali sa ating mga modules. Because our numbers show differently. So, Yusik Dads, nasabi ko na ba lahat o may natitira pa para sa iyo?
Magandang hapon. Maraming salamat po, Ma'am Liling. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Totoo po yung sinabi ni Ma'am Liling, Secretary Liling, na sang-ayon po sa aming monitoring. Noon pong nakalipas na pasukan ay about 155 yung mali na report na ulat sa atin sa ating error watch. Yung pong karamihan nito ay yung mga mali simula Oktubre hanggang Disyembre. Yung pong January to July ngayong taon ay na lang po, hindi na umabot ng 30 errors ang naulat sa atin. So, ang ibig pong sabihin, yung mga ginawa naming sistema at ngayon po bago bukas ang pasukan, nag-remind po tayo at alam po ito ni RD Alan, ginawa po ulit yung pangalawang tingin sa mga gagamiting self-learning modules, yung pong second round of quality assurance, ay sinili po ulit. At kami po, katulad din ninyo, ay hindi talaga nagiging masaya pagka may nakakalusot pa. Pero siyempre po, alam naman natin mga tao pa rin yung tumitingin, hindi pa namin naggagawa ng disenyo na mga robots na ang gumawa nito para sundin nila yung nilalagay ng computer pag-determine kung alin dyan yung mga mali. At kami po, tama po si Ma'am Liling, pag talagang sa atin po yan, sa kagawaran ng edukasyon, ginagawaan natin ang pinakamabilis na at agarang aksyon na mag-issue tayo ng korrehendum or erratum at ipaliwanag sa mga mag-aaral at sa pamamagitan ng mga guro na yung pahina na ito ay dapat ganyan. Pero po, tama po si Ma'am Liling, pagka obvious naman po na hindi naman kapanipaniwala yung dahilan, ay nagkakaroon po ng proseso at tinitingnan kung ano yung dapat na pananagutan na panindigan po ng guro na gumawa nito. At maliwanag po na hindi lahat ng nandyan sa Facebook ay amin o sa DepEd kasi po ang pinaka-paborito naming example kasi nabash kami ng napakasikat na personality na mga parang stupido kaming mga tagtayong sa DepEd dahil yung owl ay ostrich ang nakita at lahat. Hindi po yun mahanap. Hindi yun, wala kaming makita na paaralan sa DepEd na gumamit noon. At yung pong nabanggit kanina ni Ma'am Liling sa Zambales, hindi nga po yun DepEd. Po yun, private school ang may gawa. At gusto ko rin pong idagdag yung konteksto na dahil nga distance learning, mabilis lagyan ng mga pictures yung mga nakikita, hindi po lahat ng mga iniuulat ay material natin sa self-learning module. Ang isa rin pong nangyari dahil sa COVID-19, kahit yung po dating mga test, mga quizzes na binibigay ng teacher araw-araw sa kanilang mga estudyante sa lahat ng silid-aralan, 900,000 teachers po yan, na hindi naman po talaga yan nasisilip ng central office kahit ng regional office, siguro yung principal nakikita. So lumalabas at nakakalabas po sa social media at sasabihin kasalanan ng DepEd. Pero po, kaya nga po pinapaigting natin bukas magla-launch kami kasama po ang tanggapan ni Chief of Staff Yusek Nepo ng paraan sa pagbibigay ng assessment kasi po ang iba nga dito mga quizzes lang na hindi ko sinasabing lang siya pero ang sinasabi ko po talagang nung dati bago mag-COVID-19 yung pong ibang mga mali na lumalabas o nakalimutan ni teacher yung kulang ng S yung kanyang verb ay ngayon talagang napapublish po sa social media at ang impression ng marami mali-mali na yan dahil sa DepEd. Ang sinasabi po natin at si Ma'am Liling po agresibo sa pag-capacitate ng teachers, mayroon po tayong NAIAP transformation at yun na nga po, mas maigting na pagsasanay at narinig ko naman po kanina ang teacher na nagbigay ng kanyang mga karanasan na talagang hindi po nagkulang ang kagawaran. So ngayon po, pang ilang linggo na ng ating pasukan, so far yung pong error watch natin ay wala pa namang nauulat. So ang tingin po namin ay ako po mismo ay umuobra naman yung mga sistema. Maliban po dito ay nakipag-ugnayan din tayo sa Philippine Normal University na ang mga eksperto nila ay tumitingin din sa ating mga gamit. At kami po ay marami ring alalahanan ang mga regional directors na silipin kahit anytime para hindi na po kailangang iulat. Kami mismo magbibigay ng agarang pagsasaayos nito. Pag mas seryoso po yung mali ay pinapa-withdraw natin kasi hindi po tayo papayag na gamitin ng mga bata ang may mga mali-mali. Maraming salamat po sa tanong para naman nakapagpaliwanag kami ng totoong larawan o totoong sitwasyon tungkol dito. Yung pong unang tanong, hindi ko na natandaan. Parang may isang tanong pa. Doc?
Yes po, kanina po ang katanungan po, yung pinakaunang katanungan natin ay yung bago pa man po
Yun, marami pang mali ang mga modules. Yung sinasabi nga natin na sa ating error watch, bumababa na yung bilang ng mga, kasi nagiging conscious na ang lahat, na kasi ina-encourage naman namin na ang public na kung may magkita sila, i-report nila kaagad sa error watch. At saka kami mismo nakakakita din at nakikita din namin na kung minsan yung excuse na binibigay hindi man kapanipaniwala, so nag-i-impose kami ng appropriate na measures para magkaroon naman ng dagdag na disiplina sa paggawa nitong mga modules na ito. So yun ang situation ngayon. At saka yung pangungupya sa Facebook, hindi naman lahat na, saka yung material na, yung experience ko na binasa ko talaga yung nangyari sa isang bayan sa Cebu, hindi naman sa Facebook yun ang galing. Kasi yung klaseng material makukuha mo lang sa mga limitadong lugar, mga limitadong mga sources, hindi public like Facebook. So, mayroong gano'n na halimbawa, yung sasabihin na yung mga teacher sa isang lugar na umakyat sa bubong, medyo naman yun, kita mo, naka-make up sila, naka-knit together, parang chorus line ng mga dancers na dahil walang connectivity, umakyat sa bubong ng school. Yung event pa lang na yun, nangyari pa lang matagal na. So, halatang-halata na post yung mga pictures na yan. Kasi kung natural yun, pwede bang may panahon kang magpa-makeup o magpa-verify para makunan yung picture mong sa bubong ng isang eskwelahan. O nakapants ka para makanis together ka. Pag-upo. Yung mga ganon, just by looking and examining the material which is reported as being produced by DepEd, one can immediately tell that this may not necessarily come from DepEd. And also, one can wonder if there is malice involved. Like the last accusation of yung bastos na word na ginamit, ay some typographical error, impossible not typographical. Typographical, you miss a letter or you miss a word or you miss an article. Ito malayo at out of context talaga. Halatang sadya yung linagay. So, mga ganong bagay na yan, we in DepEd have to be more firm about these matters. And probably that explains why medyo mayroong clear reduction. But also I'd like to emphasize that the matter of errors in textbooks has been a challenge for decades and decades. When I was a student, and that was very, very, very long ago, in one of our textbooks on public administration, ito, kalat na libro, printed, binabasa ng lahat ng graduate students. On public administration, the word public was spelled without the L. So, kami yung mga estudyanteng nakakita, tawa. Of course, wala namang pahiring-hiring at the time, but these things do happen, whether maliciously or accidentally. And the important thing is we take steps to correct mistakes, which cannot necessarily be attributed to us. So, ayun, thank you for that question, because it tells us that the issue is still there and we have to inform the public what we have done and what is our position on this matter. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Liling. Kanina po nagtanong si Yusek Dads, yung first question po. Yusek Dads, may katanungan po kanina, what are the changes implemented this school year under modular studies po?
Ang ginagawa natin, kasi po patuloy yung paghahanap natin ng mga best practices. So ang isa pong gusto nating bigyan ng mas malakas na diin ay hindi na lang modules yung papel na nalimbag. Gusto natin hanggat pwede ay mag-blend. Available naman po yung mga TV programs. So naglabas po kami ng tulong-tulong na memorandum. Tatlong USEC ang pumirma, si USEC Alain, USEC Revsi, na paigtingin po ang paggamit din ng TV bilang supplement sa ating mga learning resources. At syempre po, paulit-ulit nating nire-remind ang mga kasamang guro na yung pong academic ease ay kailangang obserbahan. Hinihikayat din po natin at nakakatulong po sa academic ease yung pagsagawa ng ang tawag natin ay cross-curricular integrative assessment. Doon pong mga performance tasks, may mga nakita tayo, alam po sa Region 11, ginagawa na rin ito ng team ni Director Alan, na imbis po na 8 ang gagawin ng bata na performance task para makakomply sa mga requirements. Nag-uusap muna ang mga guro at isang assignment ang gagawin, pero lahat ng kailangang mapakitang kaalaman, kasanayan at pagkakatuto ay mapapakita sa isang proyekto na pwedeng gawin ng bata o may kasama yung mga kagrupo niya. So mababawasan po yung ginagawa, pero yung pagpapalalim at pagiging mas makahulugan ng mga assessment task natin ay nangyayari rin po. Ito po ay hinihikayat natin na talagang mas palaganapin ang mga practices na ganito. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Yusek Dads. Ngayon naman po may katanungan tayo tungkol sa senior high school at ang K-12 curriculum natin. Narito po ang ating kaibigan mula sa Radyo Pilipinas Davao. Nandito po si Miss Dang Humala. Hello, Miss Dang.
Hi, marinig po ako? Okay, thank
Yes
you
po.
Magandang hapon po kay Secretary. Happy birthday po. Okay, ang katanungan ko po ay medyo few months from now po, medyo wala na po tayo sa office, and how is the senior high school voucher program doing amidst the pandemic? And meron pong nagsasabi na yung programa ay hindi po nakabenepisyo yung marginalized students, pero ang para lang po matugunan yung tanong na yon, meron po ba sa pipeline ninyo na dagdagan po yung amount ng tulong para po sa ating mga senior high school na nabibigyan po ng tulong sa under voucher program po?
Sasagot si Yusek Ann kasi siya ang nakakaalam tungkol sa GASPE. Gusto ko lang na emphasize na ang isang bata at ang kanyang parents, dalawa yung pagpipilian niya o maybe even three. Either pupunta siya sa public school kung saan libre ang tuition at saka ang dami-daming tumutulong, local governments, mga PTA, business sector, talagang nagbubuhos yan. Usually ang target nila ang public schools. The other choice is to go to private schools. And I also believe that private schools have a contribution to education. Nasa Constitution yan na kailangan nag-call for complementarity between and among public schools and private schools. Pero choice nila yon. Kung mag-choice sila sa public schools, karamihang mga gastos associated with schooling, medyo naiibsan kasi libre ang tuition and so on. May mga fees pero hindi ganon kalaki. Pero kung may choice sila na pupunta sila sa private schools, mayroong cost requirements. So choice nila yon kung halimbawa isang marginalized na estudyante pupunta sa private school, alam ng parents na mayroong requirements yan unless makakuha ng scholarship. And many private schools also give scholarships. So yung ating observation na hindi na be-benefit ang mga kabataan sa GASPE, that's also part of the choice that they are making. Although we also agree that it might be useful to review the GASPE system. Alam na alam ni Yusek Ann ito in the light of the current circumstances. Alam naman ng lahat na yung sa kasagsagan ng pandemic, bumaba ang ating enrollment, ang pinakamababang levels ng drop sa enrollment, of course, sa private sector. Talagang very significant. At saka sa alternative learning systems, because alternative learning system is also an alternative, a third choice ng kabataan yan na if they're of age and they're already allowed to work, they can work and at the same time go to school. So, tatlo yung choices ng bata. But with each choice, mayroong kaakibat na benefit, mayroon din kaakibat na responsibility. Kung punta ka sa private school, make sure na makakuha ka ng scholarship, make sure na mayroong mag-sponsor sa'yo kasi even GASPE will not go directly to the student. It goes to the school, di ba? So, but we also are not resistant to the idea of reviewing the GASPE rates at this time, considering the increased cost of education and the demands for laboratories and so on and so forth. Pero si Yusek Ann ang makabigay pa ng more information about this. Palagay ko, alam ko maraming naiinis because sabi nga nila baka may-ari ako ng Silliman University dahil yung basic degree ko is from a private school. Hindi ganon. Nasa konstitusyon kasi yan na talagang may papel ang private school but may cost ang private school vis-a-vis a public school. Sige, Yusek Ann.
Thank you po, Ma'am Liling. And thank you for the question kasi very, very important ito na information for our parents and our partners in the education sector, ang mga private school. So, tatlo po yung messages na gusto naming iparating sa tanong na ito. And thank you again kasi as I said, very important. First message, talaga pong we recognize and we support the complementarity, partnership of public and private schools. Hindi po pwedeng puro public school lang. Kailangan din po ang mga private school sector natin. At yun po yung main message ni Secretary. We need to support and complement their services. Pangalawang impormasyon at I think a good news is tuloy-tuloy po ang GASPE program. Meron po kasing mga balita na sinasabi nila na nahinto or wala ng pondo. So atin po itong itama, tuloy-tuloy at in fact, bumabalik na po yung pag-increase ng budget. Ibig sabihin yung suporta ay nandiyan. So just for concrete details, 26.8 billion po ngayong taon. Next year, it will be 28.4 billion. So increasing pa nga po siya. Pangatlo na mensahe, ang tanong, gusto ba namin i-increase yung rates or yung benepisyo or yung subsidy? Yes, we are willing. But the problem is really yung availability ng pondo. At kung ang available na pondo, although nag-i-increase, ano ba yung uunahin natin? I-increase natin yung pwede pang makasali, ibig sabihin yung number of beneficiaries without changing the rates, or i-increase ang rates pero kukonti ang beneficiaries. So yan po ay isang polisiya na palagi pong pinag-aaralan, inire-report po natin yan sa EDSECOM at kay Ma'am Liling. Ngayon po ang ating pong desisyon ay paramihin ang makasali. Kaya po kung ang tanong ay i-increasean ba yung rate, yung pong amount na natatanggap ay sa isang taon, sa next year, ay hindi pa po natin may increasean ang rate. Bakit? Kasi gusto po nating bumalik ang mga estudyante sa mga private school. The pandemic or the crisis has affected the operation of the private schools. Ano po yung nangyari? Marami pong mga beneficiaries or grantees natin ay pumunta na talaga sa public school. Kasi sa sinabi nga ni Ma'am Liling, kung ikaw isang magulang at merong biglaang nangyari sa iyong economic status, enroll mo siya sa public dahil lahat ay libre. Wala na kayong tatanungin na rate at wala na rin po kayong iisipan na out-of-pocket na expenses. So yun po yung nangyari in the previous school year because of the pandemic. Right now, the trend is they're coming back slowly. We are increasing in the number of the grantees. At sana nga po yung susunod na report natin ay mapunta na po tayo doon sa pag-increase, hindi lamang ng coverage or yung dadami ang beneficiaryo, kung hindi tataas na rin yung rates para totoong makatulong sa ating mga mag-aaral, mga magulang at mga private school owners or institutions. Isa pa pong programa na ginagawa natin, hindi naman po tungkol sa rate, kung hindi yung proseso ng pagbabayad sa ating mga private school. Kasi kung the more delayed yung pagbayad sa kanila, mas malaki yung problema. So yung pong aspect na yon, kahit na hindi tayo nabibigyan ng increase in the rates, ay ginagawa natin ng paraan na mag-improve din. Isa pong good news ay yung pag-establish at pag-approve ni Ma'am Liling na magkaroon ng GASPE Program Management Office. Meron na po tayong isang opisina sa central office na talagang nagmamanage ng GASPE program at unti-unti ay i-engage po natin ang mga regional offices, ang mga school division offices para po yung pag-manage at yung pag-improve ng GASPE program ay hindi lamang nasa central office, kung hindi nasa inyong mga levels na rin. So yan po yung mga direksyon na amin pong sinusunod na instruction ng ating secretary. Hindi lamang pag-improve or pag-increase ng mga rates, kung hindi pati yung mismong pag-implementa ng programa. So again, thank you for the question, and ang good news, tuloy-tuloy ang GASPE program. At huli na lang po ito para po malaman ninyo, yung pong GASPE ay nagsimula sa ESC from grade 7 to 10. So that is Education Service Contracting. May senior high school din, grades 11 to 12. At meron pa pong joint delivery program, mga estudyanteng naka-enroll sa TVL. At kung kailangan nila ng hands-on or additional experience na pag-laboratories, ay meron din po tayong GASPE program dyan. So isa pa pong direksyon ay hindi lamang yung pag-increase ng rate, kung hindi pag-increase din ng scope ng mga voucher program natin. Yan po ay tulong-tulong na ginagawa natin dito po sa Department of Education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am Ann. May isa pa po kong katanungan, although ito pong katanungan ko na ito ay medyo nabanggit na ni Secretary kanina na meron na pong gagawin na review sa ating sa current basic education natin. Ang tanong ko na lang siguro, Secretary, kung ano po ba yung mga nasali na include doon sa i-review sa DepEd K-12 program?
I assumed office as Secretary of Education. May instructions ang President sa akin na kailangan bigyan ng pansin, sabi niya. Una, kailangan turuan ang mga bata tungkol sa environment. Saka sa danger sa environment, it has to be in the curriculum. Secondly, by the time a child is at the age of 10, kailangan ma-orient na ang bata tungkol sa reproductive health. So this is related, obviously, to issues of population and so on. Pangatlo, may instructions din ang President na turuan ang mga bata tungkol sa gender issues, gender equality, at saka relationships among various gender choices of our learners. Pang-apat is his program na talagang binigyan ng atensyon is at the age of 9, children should already be oriented about the dangers of drugs. So apat yung instructions na binigay niya even before I started my work as Secretary of Education. Kaya nung una akong umupo, 5 years ago, in-announce namin kung todo-todo yung 10-point program. At isa sa importante dito ay yung curriculum review. Alam ito ni Yusek Dads. At the time, regional director pa siya. Pero ang instructions ko noon sa Undersecretary for Curriculum, na-reviewin yung ating curriculum dahil kailangan we have to make sure that we put enough emphasis about the environment, about reproductive health. Kailangan ma-orient na ang mga bata at a particular age about the gender issues and gender choices na ginagamit as sometimes which affect the relationships among our learners also and among our teachers, and also about the environment and drugs. Yun, sinabi ko na yun because every year when I report to the President, I tell him what is happening along this front. So, curriculum. And then, kita natin na every year, at least about 1 million ang increase ng enrollment. So, medyo nakuha na natin yung quantity, yung na-attract na natin yung mga students who should be in school. So, the next thing that we tried to do was to start the EduCalidad, which is quality education, and which is demanded of us not only by the President, but by the Constitution itself. Because the Constitution is very, very clear that we provide quality education. Hindi lang yung pipitsugin na education, but quality education to all citizens, to all Filipinos in the country. So nag-umpisa tayo ng sulong EduCalidad, which leads me to your question. Ano ba yung emphasis natin na binibigyan natin ng attention sa sulong EduCalidad even before the pandemic? Una is the curriculum. Kasi mahalaga. Ano bang ituturo natin sa mga bata? And then, pangalawa, yung ating facilities, yung ating basic education facilities, kailangan tingnan natin yan ng maayos. Pangatlo, and this is very important, and I never tire of using this quotation, that sabi nga, the Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest mathematicians ever produced by the human race, and he passed on at past 70. Ang sabi niya, wherever there is a brilliant student, an exceptional student, there must be an exceptional teacher. So the relationship between the quality of students that we are able to mentor and to teach and to tutor is dependent on also how our teachers go about their functions. So importante yung teacher quality. And this is why, and we have announced it time and again, that we are transforming the National Education Academy of the Philippines, which is when we upgrade or upskill or capacitate what the teachers learn at university level. Dagdagan natin yan, yung tinatawag natin na on-the-job training ba ang tawag dyan or whatever na ituturo natin. And we have been transforming the National Education Academy. And we are launching tomorrow, hindi ba that's this program which will enhance the capacity of the teachers to assess. Kasi ngayon, that is the most frequently asked question in press conference. Okay, nagbe-blended na kayo dyan. Now that you don't see the students, how do you assess the performance of your students? Paano ninyo yan na-assess? Hindi naman ninyo nakikita. Oo. Although we know they're supposed to make calls, they're supposed to make visits, and our multi-awarded teachers are recognized for what they do. They go out of their way to visit their students because most of the time they are living in the same barrio or in the same town. So maski na blended, maski walang face-to-face, they take that kind of initiative. And then the final one is we have to reach out to our partners. Kasi education, may nagtanong nga sa akin in one of the groups that I am very close to. Ay sinabi nila, what are you doing about martial law and freedom and justice, etc.? Ang sabi ko, that is reflected in our curriculum. But the responsibility and the effort to what some people, some groups are expecting na i-undo yung notions about martial law, about military control, and so on and so forth, is not only the responsibility of the Department of Education. You have to watch television. You have to listen to radio. You have to read the newspapers. Hindi lang magtanong tayo, anong tinuturo ng DepEd sa mga bata? Pero anong tinitingnan nila sa TV? Anong binabasa nila sa periodiko? At naririnig ba nila yung mga istorya na alam natin dito sa Luzon, sa Visayas at saka sa Mindanao? Yun ang challenge ko right from the beginning. Sinabi ko yan. So we have to reach out to our partners. Kasama na dito ang media. Kaya nga we formed the acronym KITE, which is really about the curriculum, about our own facilities at DepEd. Are they conducive to learning? Should we spend a great part of our budget every year in and out building new classrooms and so on? Should we reconsider the issue of design? Is it possible for a child to learn at home? And we have shown that it is possible, not perhaps to the same degree as we have been doing with face-to-face. And then the teacher, we have to capacitate, of course, our teachers, because this is a different way of teaching, of transmitting learning. Not only the teachers, but the parents themselves. And by the way, Davao might consider it very seriously, considering that it is a well-endowed region. In Region 1, for example, or in my favorite example, which is Valenzuela, they have what they call Nanay Academies, where they teach, where they also tutor the mothers so that the mothers can better teach the mothers or the fathers, so the mothers and the fathers can better teach their children. Kasi isa yun sa mga complaint na mothers are also threatened by the kinds of lessons that our children are expected to learn. Kasi nagbago ang ating blended learning. Dati we always think ang pagtuturo ng mga bata ay responsibilidad ng Department of Education. So ano ginagawa nila? Bakit bastos ang bata? Bakit hindi marunong mag-spell? Tingnan natin yung ating mga text, tingnan natin ang ating mga mass media, tingnan natin yung ating mga naririnig na mga speech na nababasa natin, hindi lamang sa textbooks, no? So these are some of the initiatives. 4 lang ito, but napakabigat. Curriculum, our own infrastructure, our facilities sa schools, our teacher upskilling, because definitely we have to change the way, modify or improve or be creative about the way we teach, and also to reach out to our partners who are also part of the process of education. So it's a very long answer to a very important question. Unless sila dads would like to make additions, or si Malcolm, nandito ba si Revsi para ma-further elucidate natin itong ating what we are trying to do in the space of 5 years out of 123 years of the Department of Education, which we just celebrated. Nakangiti ka, ha? Listening.
Maraming salamat, Miss Dang Humala of Radyo Pilipinas, Davao. At ngayon naman po, Secretary Liling, meron po tayong katanungan on learners' concerns. Ito po ay galing kay Miss Angie Villones Chagas of Bombo, Radyo Davao. Ang katanungan niya po, bago lamang kumalat sa social media ang pambabastos ng mga estudyante sa Cebu sa kanilang guro, parang nag-iba ang ugali ng mga kabataan ngayon sa nawala na tayong face-to-face classes. Ano po ba ang pwedeng magawa ng DepEd tungkol dito? At ano po ba ang assessment ninyo sa ugali ng mga estudyante mula nang nahinto po ang ating face-to-face classes?
Una, itong nangyari sa Cebu, nung natanggap ko yung tanong, ay tumawag ako kaagad sa Region 7. At saka nandito na sa akin yung report ng incident. Yung mga estudyante, mahal na mahal natin yung ating learners. Pero kailangan din matuto sila, madisiplina sila. So they have been suspended while the investigation is going on. And since the teacher who was insulted, na yung sabi natin binastos, was so affected, so we are also looking after his well-being and his welfare. I cannot say honestly na nagiging bastos ang bata dahil wala tayong face-to-face. Kasi maski noon pa, nagko-complain ng may mga teachers na nagko-complain na binabastos sila ng kanilang mga estudyante. Hindi tayo makakonclude very safely na kung ano yung mga problema ng ating lipunan ay kailangan ang Department of Education lang ang maka-cure niyan. Because it takes concerted effort of entire society. And this justifies even more our notion, our position that as we open face-to-face classes, we would like to focus on the K-3 grades, kung saan pinoform natin yung kaugalian, yung behavior ng mga bata. Ilang mga mambabatas at saka nakikita ko yan, nababasa ko din yan sa mga libro na sa ibang bansa, yung first years ng pag-aaral ng bata Hindi sila tinuturuan ng facts or how to add 1 plus 1 or how to read and how to recite the alphabet. Hindi. Tinuturo nila sa kanila ay yung pakikitungo sa kapwa-bata, pakikitungo sa adults, at doon sila tinuturuan ng yung tinatawag nating good manners and right conduct for the first 3 years of their life as they are in school. So, nag-justify yan. But hindi ko sinasabi na lahat yan ay dahil hindi tayo nag-face-to-face. Kasi even bago tayo nag-face-to-face, mayroon ng mga kasong ganyan. And alam naman natin lahat yan. And kailangan tingnan din natin ang sitwasyon sa bata, ng mga bata natin, sa kanilang pamamahay, sa kanilang pamilya, sa kanilang neighborhood, sa kanilang community na nagsasanction ng ganong klaseng behavior. Hindi ito simpleng bagay na kasi hindi kayo nag-face-to-face o tingnan mo, nagiging bastos ang mga estudyante. Kasi we have those problems already, those challenges, even before a society is evolving. And this is where it is important that itong matter of forming the child's socialization skills has to be started early para mai-ingrain na sa ating kabataan ang respect for the elders. It's very, very interesting what they do in other countries and how they influence children to behave, halimbawa, towards elders, or to behave towards members of their family, to respond to instructions, to deal with fellow children. May nakikita ako, nababasa at napapanood ng mga materials na nagpapakita na it's very helpful and useful to start children at an early age. So that's my answer to the question. And as I said, as of late last night, this was anong oras ba? I asked for, when I received the query na about the Cebu incident, I immediately called Region 7 and na-report na they have taken action on the matter. And obviously, of course, the kids who are involved need counseling, and maybe, I don't know, the experts will be the ones to decide. Maybe the parents also need to be involved in the process of helping the learners. It's not a question of punishing or what, or it's a question of teaching them how to behave towards teachers, towards the elderly, towards adults, and also to fellow young people. I think, is it this week or next week, Aster, na the UNESCO is having this conference on hate speech? Kasi may resolution na we should, as education ministries, contribute to the reduction of what they call hate speech. You hate teachers, or you hate somebody who does not look like you. You hate someone who is fat or who is thin. You hate a person who has another religion, and so on. And that is, of course, taught in school, but also taught in other parts of society. All of this is our responsibility. And you cannot pinpoint only one group for this kind of responsibility. Thank you.
Po, Secretary Liling. At narito po ang isang partner natin mula po sa PTV4. Andito po si Sir Jay Lagang. Hello, Sir Jay.
Hi po, good afternoon. Is my audio clear po?
Yes po, go ahead, Sir Jay.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Secretary Briones, magandang hapon po. I would just like to clarify some, yes po, Secretary. I would just like to clarify some data presented earlier by ASEC Garma. 300 schools po ang nirecommend ng DOH for pilot implementation ng face-to-face, and he mentioned that there are 77. Clarify ko lang po as ASEC Garma kung ano po yung ibig sabihin ng 77. Ito po yung parang approved na to go into the pilot run ng face-to-face or limited face-to-face classes. Is still ASEC Garma around?
Yeah, I'm here, Jay.
Hi, sir.
Yeah. Ma'am, can I respond to that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jay, for that question. No? As I have said, we have already received a copy or list from DOH identifying around 329 schools all over the Philippines that are already, whose areas are already in the low risk category. But of course, we have to comply with the joint memorandum circular that we are only allowed to open 100 public schools and 20 private schools for the limited face-to-face that will start on November 15. So of that list given by the Department of Health, as of today, we have 77 schools in various regions that have already complied with the requirements of the Department of Education using our what we call as the school safety assessment tool. So tama yung nakuha mong numero, 77, but we are waiting for the official report of Region 1, which will probably include 10 additional schools. So that will make around 87 already of the 100. So our objective, Jay, is to complete the 100 public schools and 20 private schools before we start on November 15. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yes, sir. In the previous reports na release po ng DepEd, may mga schools from Zamboanga Peninsula, Northern Mindanao, and Socsargen na nakasama po doon sa pilot run ng limited face-to-face. As of today ba, may nadagdag na areas within the Mindanao Island na makakasama po doon sa pilot run ng limited face-to-face aside doon sa mga schools na galing nga sa na-mention ko na Zamboanga Peninsula, Northern Mindanao at Socsargen region po.
Okay. In fact, Jay, doon sa 77, we have included that in that already, the 8 schools in Davao region. So there are 11 schools in Davao region that were qualified by the Department of Health, but based on the report of Regional Director Alan Farnazo, each school of which will participate in the November 15 pilot implementation. And if we will not be able to complete, given that Region 1 will already submit their report, we'll revert back to the other regions in Mindanao kung pwede pang magdagdag dito sa mga nauna na nating nailista ng mga schools.
Okay. Yun din sana yung next clarification ko, ASEC Garma, kasi parang dun nga hindi pa parang nakasama yung ibang schools dito sa Davao region. Is it because walang nag-apply, or is it because of the implemented alert level system dito sa Davao region?
Yeah. As I have said, Jay, based on the last list that we received from DOH, 11 pa lang yung naisama in the entire Davao region. But of course, in the official or in the original list that we have submitted to the Department of Health, which numbered to around 638, may mga areas na from Region 11 that are included. But of course, we rely on the granular assessment that DOH is doing So baka kung hindi man ngayon, Jay, no, with the expansion program after we have submitted our report to the President on the pilot study, then we are very optimistic that more schools in Region 11 can be included. Thank you.
Thank you, Asek Dharma.
Maraming salamat, Sir J. Lagang of PTV4 Davao. At ngayon naman po nasagot na po ang lahat ng ating mga katanungan mula sa ating media partners. So before we end our press conference, once again, let me call on our dear Secretary for her closing statement.
Hindi na kailangang magdagdag pa ako ng salita at dagdag na information at datos dahil na-raise na yung mga issues, and this is a good two-way learning experience for the media and for the public. We are sharing the latest developments, but at the same time, the kind of questions that have been raised also informs us that we need perhaps to explain even more and answer the concerns of the public on the matter of face-to-face. As I was saying a while ago, the face-to-face was very loud and very noisy, reaching international levels as if we are the only uncivilized country in this wide world who does not appreciate face-to-face. Now that we are implementing it, other concerns are surfacing, and we'd like to thank Region 11 with RD Alan and all of you in the information group for arranging this press conference. Not only for media, but also for the public. I believe that there are parents who are also listening. As far as parents are concerned, of course, their attention is focused on their child, the safety of their child, and perhaps we should also focus the information that we share on that matter, yung safety ng child. Kaya it leads us to the debate on vaccination, which, as I said, is already quieting in the sense that more and more of our teachers and our staff are getting themselves voluntarily vaccinated. So salamat na salamat, and I'm really very happy and pleased with the decision that we made, that in addition to having the usual national press conferences through national media, we should go regional, because this is where we hear the genuine feedback. This is where we hear genuine concerns. And this is where we also realize that there are gaps in information which we must share even more. And there are also misconceptions which we must also correct. So thank you very much for sponsoring this. I miss Region 11, obviously, because I was a frequent visitor before the pandemic, and there are many things I love about the region, and many people I associate, of course, with the region. But I look forward to the time when it will be possible to do face-to-face, not just for classes, but also for people to people getting together and sharing concerns, sharing not only bad and terrible dramatic news, but also the good news of love, of togetherness, of sharing, and most important of all, of hope. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Liling. We miss you too. At dyan po nagtatapos ang ating press conference. Maraming salamat sa ating mga media partners. At sana ay tuloy-tuloy ang ating samahan para sa pagbibigay ng mahahalagang impormasyon tungkol sa edukasyon para sa mga guro, mga bata at para sa bayan. At nandito po si Director Alan para po sa kanyang mensahe.
Ma'am Liling, maraming salamat for giving the Region 11 at alam naman po ninyo yung 8 paaralan na context na inihabol natin para sa limited face-to-face ay characterized by our indigenous peoples, communities. Nagpaparigards at nagpapabati ng happy birthday sa iyo si Dato Julio Bagi. Happy birthday daw. Maraming salamat at mula sa Davao Region, Ma'am Liling, belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sa
Sotong
ngalan po,
Mandaya.
Yan, thank you very much. At saka yung PPE, Ma'am Liling, ng grupo ng mga IPE din yun, exclusively on the Secretary of Education from the indigenous peoples group of Davao Region. Happy birthday, Ma'am Liling.
Thank you. Salamat na salamat.
sa ngalan ng tuloy-tuloy na paghubog sa mga kabataan, magkaisa tayo upang mapalakas ang mga aksyon at solusyon para sa edukasyon. Ako si Maria Jemima Valderrama. Ito ang EduAKSYON, Aksyon at Solusyon para sa Edukasyon, DepEd Virtual Press Conference.
Salamat Ma'am Jemima na nagsilbing moderator sa ating press conference, and maraming salamat din po sa aming Regional Director, Director Alan Farnazo. Taus-puso salamat na si Secretary Leonor Magtolis-Briones at sa ating mga Undersecretary and Assistant Secretary.
Daghang salamat sa ating mga media partners na nakikisa sa ating talakayan. Nais din naming pasalamatan ang mga nakasama natin sa likod ng kamera para sa matagumpay na programa ngayong araw.
At syempre, maraming salamat din sa mga tumutok sa ating Facebook, YouTube channel, and Panabo Cable Channel 1 with our DLD. Dito nagwawakas ang ating programa at talakayan tungkol sa mga aksyon
at sa mga solusyon na ipatutupad para sa pagpapatuloy ng edukasyon.
Muli, ako si ay ng Panabo City.
At ako naman si Edmar S. Atwell ng A.O. Florendo National High School. Ito ang EduAKSYON, aksyon at solusyon para sa edukasyon.